Good evening. We welcome you again to the Church of Heathens. We got a special episode tonight. The official reaction show. Yours truly, Driscoll, aka Bishop Heathen, as notated in the vice panel, Philip Sanders Jr. We coming with the real today. We're gonna give our feedback. We're gonna open the lines for your questions. Post your comments. Let us know your thoughts. And if all goes well, I might drop the link for you to hop on. We shall see. First and foremost, smash that like button. We getting going with the controversy already. Salute the Mel waiting on us. Like, share, and subscribe if you have not done so yet. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Tell a friend, tell a friend. We're going to get it started. Ready?
Call me Driscoll, aka Jesus Peace. Spitting scriptures that's in red, making Jesus speak. If you get that through your head, what your demons seek, it's the blood that these vampires need to drink, that bring the dead back to life, make it seem discreet. Man, these lives getting touched, I redeem the streets. Hit you deeper than that crack that these fiends can beat. It's the dawn of the dead, quarantine the streets. For the ghouls with AKs, ARs, strapped up like they made for war. I speak for those with no voices, while my words cut like a ninja sword. So much spirit up on each verse that you ain't gotta go to church just to hear the Lord. Make your soul rain at the inner core. It's the blood game that we living for. Make you hold your pain or you sin no more. What we out here trying to be bitter for? To reflect the pain from the inner war. That's the bigger war. But used to give us Lord. Let's party, get turned, and don't let haters stop your thunder. Tell your DJ that Driscoll got the club locked this summer. What's up?
Family, what it do, what it do? What's up with this camera, man? It is your boy Driscoll, aka Bishop Heathen, and we're here to discuss the vice panel that I was on debating the state of the U.S. education system. Now, man, listen, this got controversial. It was me and a few black conservatives, but most of the panel were liberal teachers. I think a couple of the people on the panel were college students. Everyone else were educators. I'm just a dad who's homeschooling. As you see, I got on my shirt, no left turn in education. Shout out to this organization doing great work. They gave me this t-shirt for free a couple months ago. I figured no better opportunity to go ahead and show off what it is that they got going on than today when we discussing the topic of education. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to break it down piece by piece. We're going to go through the video. I'm going to share my thoughts, open it up for questions, comments, or concerns. I'm getting a little bit of backlash already, specifically from the alphabet community. But hey, it's all love. You know, that's part of the game. So without further ado, let me bring up my panel. First and foremost, I'm going to start with the one and only Mrs. Driscoll, Mrs. Sanders, aka the church mother of the Church of Heathens, joining us live in the sanctuary. Some of you know her as Family Values, some of you know her as Jasmine, but I just know her as Bay. Let's get her right here on this screen to bring some beauty to the platform. Family Values, say hi to the people, please.
Hello, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to get into this conversation. This is important. I say this almost every show, but this is a very important topic.
Absolutely, absolutely. So without further ado, we're going to get into our next panelist, my friend, my brother. I've known this man for quite some time. He's an excellent husband and father, has plenty of experience to bring to this discussion. I can't wait to hear his feedback. You may know him as Smitty. We know him as the Pastor Heathen. Without further ado, bro Smitty, let the people know what's up.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's going on, everybody? Your boy Smitty here, local neighborhood libertarian, man. Excited to get this popping. Ready to ride this wave, bro. Let's get it popping.
Come on. Swag out here, baby. Without further ado, next up, we got who we got? Okay. We got Miss Lakia, host of the show Keeping It Real with Lakia. As we know her, simply Sister Heathen. She is a wife and a mother and a working professional. She has a lot on her plate, so we appreciate her taking her time to come here and share her expertise and experience. We would love to hear what she got to add to the conversation. Without further ado, let's welcome up Sister Heathen.
Hello, how are you guys? This is Lakia, aka Sister Heathen.
Absolutely, absolutely. And last but certainly not least, we got my brother Kel, aka Brother Heathen, tech extraordinaire, expert in dang near all things. He has a lot of wealth of experience and expertise to bring to this discussion as well. We cannot wait to hear from you, brother. Let the people know what's up, Brother Heathen.
What's up, family? Hey, back again. Fresh out of revival for the night. Had to rush in just to get back to the panel itself here. So we got some things to talk about. Your child is important. Let's get to it.
Word. You was in Asbury, bro?
Yeah, it was, bro. Third night. Got another night tomorrow.
Oh, we'll say less. Strong Ballerina, we appreciate you for coming on by. She said, bravo, Jasmine. She was gracious enough to answer some questions that I had. Well, thank you for coming by. Hopefully, she can answer some more. So, you all know what we are here to discuss. First and foremost, how many have seen the Vice panel yet so far? Just one, X2. Okay, excellent. So, we got some raw reactions coming in. This panel was interesting for me. When it was first brought to me, I didn't know how to feel about it or if I even wanted to do it. Because like I said, I'm not an educator. This is just life to me. Like I never thought of this to be advocating in a sense or something that anybody would care to hear. Like I guess you get numb to the reality that your life can be an anomaly sometimes. And I just didn't realize for a Black family, especially a man who looks like me, that my views would be seen as so extreme, off-brand, or different in today's climate. But that goes to show how much we really do live in a box. So without further ado, let's get into this. This is certain to not disappoint. This is the latest Vice debates panel that released today, featuring yours truly. And please let us know what you think in the comments. And we'll be stopping throughout it to discuss along the way. Can everybody see the screen? Can everybody see the screen?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
With your child. But I don't think that taxpayer-funded hatred should be something that we allow in our schools.
Okay, bro, real talk though, like brother to brother. Teaching white privilege does not inherently mean Black people are less. Factually incorrect.
So you see, they set us up for the drama already. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of where it's going.
SATs.
No, gotta be careful.
I'm Mina Durson. I'm a correspondent here at Vice News, and we're going to talk about education today. We tried to bring a very diverse mix of voices here. Obviously, we're not going to be able to represent every single opinion out there when it comes to education, but we are really thankful for your time and for your perspectives. I also have 2 kids in school, so have experienced some of this from the parent side as well. So let's just start really broadly. What's the purpose of education?
I think the purpose of education is twofold. One, to help build and support the individual, but also help build and support society as a whole. Because even though you may not have a kid in education, you pay taxes to public school, because we as a society depend on and need education for society to work.
I think the purpose of education is to educate and not indoctrinate. And I think that in a lot of ways, we've strayed from that in the original purpose of what it's supposed to be.
I think it should be intelligence and character. I think you should be able to understand the world around you and understand who you are and your purpose and try to make the world a better place. I think that it has to be a mix of the skills, memorizing the formulas, understanding the world around you, but then also what to do with it.
And just to go off that, the idea that education, you have to balance the importance of memorizing the quadratic formula while simultaneously addressing social and political issues respectively. So children have both the know-how, general knowledge, and also kind of self-awareness and character, so they're able to develop their own opinions.
Yeah, I think that the purpose of education is to understand the world that you exist in and use that understanding as a means for creating change or even understanding yourself on a deeper level.
I believe the purpose is simply just to prepare the individual to be successful in the society that they exist in.
Critical thinking, learn how to live out your full potential so you can be independent, and everything else really flows from there.
So first and foremost, what stood out to me, you seeing everybody pop up with their name and their title, educator this, doctor of this, and I'm just homeschool parent. Which is excellent in a way, because it gives voice and credence to the everyday parent. So I appreciate having the opportunity to be that. But I know, like one of you mentioned behind the scenes, that I seemed uninterested, and it wasn't that I was uninterested. It was just really that I just did not know what to expect. I felt a little in over my head, to be honest. And I just was. Go ahead, Jasmine.
I believe that you were the most important panelist on there because you're a parent, a homeschooling parent at that. You were the only one. You are the advocate of children.
Exactly. And I see that now. But going in, you got to understand, like, y'all are going to see is some characters on the screen. And you got to imagine what I'm thinking. For one, flying into New York City from, a very conservative state, being COVID tested to get into the freaking building. We're wearing masks still in 2022. I mean, there was a lot of mind-blowing things happening. And so I'm just looking at this from that perspective, and I'm like, okay, I was prepared for the worst.
The purpose of education is to prepare children for the real life and also make sure that they are literate.
So I think the purpose is to raise the next generation of leaders. And when you think about what you want your leaders to be like, you want them to be knowledgeable, and you want them to be compassionate. You want them to be self-aware. You want them to understand the best way to move forward, not just for themselves personally, but for their whole community.
When we talk about who's doing the educating, who should...
So if you didn't catch that, the individual's name was Kim Deco, dressed and identifying as a male.
Right. That's why I shook my head. I was like, oh. Okay.
So you see where we're going already.
Right.
Guide what's being taught.
Parents. I think that parents should have a huge say in what's going on in the classroom, because it's their kids, not ours. As a public school teacher 15 years, I was always aware that these are not my children. We have to make sure that we're respecting parents and their beliefs and their values.
I think the Constitution agrees with that.
Yes.
Here in America, ranging back to the early 1900s, plenty of Supreme Court cases have ruled in that favor that it is the parents' right ultimately to decide a child's education, medical needs, etc.
I would push back though and say that there does need to be collaboration, right? I completely respect your idea of it is not our job as educators to put forth a belief in front of children, right? That includes not perpetuating parents' beliefs in the classroom as well. In my opinion, that would be keeping a non-biased viewpoint, simply presenting issues and then allowing kids to decide for themselves.
I would agree that I think it needs to be a collaborative effort. The way that we decide curriculum in Texas is that work groups comprised of community members, educators, parents, even in some cases students and public service officials come together to draft curriculum plans, and then it's ultimately decided on by our State Board of Education, which has a lot of kind of assistance from parents as well. So I think that kind of format can be really effective because it also empowers students to become involved in the fate of their education. And as a student myself, I think that that's incredibly important because our perspectives need to be heard as well.
The voices of parents need to be heard in that equation. But unfortunately, what we've seen recently is that parents' voices have been demonized in this process. You've seen parents who have criticized local school boards labeled terrorists simply for caring about the quality of their education that their child is receiving. These teachers are temporary caretakers. When they come back home, it's the parent who has to explain that this is this radical belief that was put in front of you. This was this idea that you've never been raised around that parent now has to explain. And at the end of the day, that isn't just confined to a classroom. Now it's bleeding into their upbringing. And there's only one person responsible for their upbringing, and it's the parents. It's not the educator, it's not the teacher, it's their parents.
I like the idea of the collaboration, and obviously parents' voices belong at that table. I also like the emphasis on students having a say in this, and also other people adults that aren't parents. I'm invested in that too, even though I don't have children of my own. And I hear what you're saying about having to, like, parents needing to confront or address, I guess, like what kids are learning at school. But giving kids the exposure to other ideas or other things that they wouldn't be exposed to otherwise is, I think, part of what's going to help raise the next generation of people that are able to look outside their own lived experience.
But I think that oftentimes those different ideas are presented in the classroom as a student as the only idea. When you're being taught that, there's this many genders or anything like this, where you haven't been exposed to that in your own household, it's being presented as like the end all be all when it actually isn't. It's about educating and not indoctrinating. As long as that is presented as a counterpoint to, well, there's people who believe this, but there's also people who believe this, that's okay. The reality of it is that in most classrooms across the country, that isn't what's happening.
And to piggyback.
And that's a fair perspective. Because this is not to get into a debate about beliefs, but as biblical, faith-based people in our household, we don't believe in the idea that humanity evolved from primates. That's a commonly taught thing in the public school system. Perfect example. And science we know to be theories, but it's not presented that way. It's presented as if this is what is. So that's one example of many where we're not giving fair credence to the reality that the respect for other people's beliefs and values is not likely to be adequately shared in the school system.
I believe they just need to stick with the facts, stick with the fundamentals. They're teaching things that are lies. They're straight up lies. And I think we should have a say in that. And like he said, they're not teaching that some people believe this. They're teaching that this is what the truth is.
Exactly.
And then we have to debate with our children when they come home because they're like, Mom, my teacher said this. Why are you saying this?
Yep.
They're confused. It's confusion.
And it's so funny, Jasmine, how often we talk about that and people will diminish that reality. And I was just talking to my own mom today about how my little brother, 21 years old, basically fresh out of high school, is now arguing with her about basic life realities, saying, "You just out of touch, Mom. You're old school." It's like a word for word script. We have literally talked about that multiple times. And to hear her say she's hearing that from him now, when she says basic stuff like men don't want to marry a woman who's showing her butt off and her body on Instagram. How is that a debatable issue? That's common sense that men don't want wives doing that. But we're so far from common sense now that when you present anything close to our conservative Christian values that the country was built on, you're now out of touch and don't understand reality.
Wow.
My thing with that is though, I understand it's agreeable, but at the same time, I feel like you also have to have an open mind enough to where your child isn't in a shock when they're adults, basically. So they're aware. I feel like some people don't see that in the school teachers or school officials. Like my cousin is a teacher, and she's like, it's okay if, like, I don't know, I forget his name, but like he said, as long as you're saying some people believe this and some people believe that, and you're giving your child that knowledge, is where it can go wrong, because you do have these extreme households that are like, it's this way and that's it, and this is how you respond, and then they don't know how to respond in a world where things are different. So as long as you're having that dialogue and your kids know, hey, you're going to run into some foolishness like this and like that, and they're prepared, and it's not like a total shock, then I feel like that's important too.
Well, I agree with you, because that's how I raise our children as well. They know what's going on in the world. But if a parent decides to shelter them from that, they have every right to do that.
Absolutely. No, it's definitely a choice. It's
Yeah.
definitely a choice in how you raise your kids, but I'm saying I feel like people will always counter it for those certain households that do shelter their kids, and then once their kids are now adults, they're rebellious and they're doing all this crazy stuff because there's an excuse, or oh, they never knew this other stuff existed, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's a fear tactic. I know that happened. Don't get me wrong, but I hear that often. And the reality is, the households that don't shelter their kids, the kids end up worse.
I know.
Because people often say that as if, the households that say, I'm going to let you do what you want, suddenly create good kids who got it all out their system.
Right.
It really just creates lifelong degenerates.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think, like you, I'm not disagreeing. I'm just
that's not my view. I'm saying that is what people try to counter this argument with, and say like, this is why you need school, and this is why you need this, or this is why you need people outside of the household because of the situation. That's not my personal view, but like I said, for the people that do homeschool, that have the structure, that are have an open dialogue about some things, because everything's not a dialogue in my house, but that have that open line of communication, and they don't hide the reality of what's going on, I feel like that's fine, and they'll be okay. But yes, there are people who completely shelter and shut down, but then you are expected to operate in the world when you get out there, and now you're like, and it is difficult to navigate.
So are you saying those households that do that don't open their child's mind to what's happening in the world, they shouldn't be homeschooling? Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I feel like you can do whatever you want to do. I just feel like that it should be reality thrown in the mix.
I can take that. You're saying what you believe should be best, but you're not taking the right from parents to go against that.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody do.
Yeah.
Whatever floats your canoe. That's my theory. Like, do what you gotta do, but I just feel like it would be for their own good and at their advantage if they had that ability that, like, hey, this is what happens. Like, there's some people that are strict based on love, and they're like, nothing bad comes with love, and it's just a sense of being naive now, and you go out in the world and you can't approach every situation like that. That's just facts. So you need to have that knowledge. So I just feel like as long as that's in the mix somewhere, then they will be fine.
No, I don't have much pushback for that, because I talk about all the time, being someone who's worked in the gentleman clubs as a DJ, etc. I have seen from personal conversations with the entertainers who end up in that lifestyle that 99% came from strict religious backgrounds. So you have credence to what you're saying. So that's why I want to be clear. I'm not dismissing that.
Right.
No, I understand.
There's a healthy way to set strict boundaries with your kid, and there's an unhealthy way to do it as well. So you are correct in that regard. I think the main thing is that, like you said, we allow parents that freedom, because if you want the freedom to raise your kids, that this is the one only way that we accept, and at the end of the day, they came out of your body. I think we as a society cannot try to control how people raise their own offspring. And there are things that I might not agree with, like, as long as it's lawful. Like, some states you can marry at 14. I'm gonna go ahead and get all the way controversial. If you come from a family that finds value in signing you away to be married at 14, I don't think we should get to tell them they can't because we don't agree with it. Because culturally, they may have a reason for that we don't understand. Because that sets a dangerous precedent, because there are a lot of things about our parenting that would get heavily criticized with people when it comes to just our healthcare decisions. Matter of fact, I just seen a young lady that we follow, Jasmine, the lady that has 10 kids, that family. They just posted their at-home birth. They delivered with no help. The husband delivered the child all alone. They had it on video. It was such a beautiful thing. I'm looking at the criticism in the comments, people talking about abuse and we should call CPS and have their children. People are crazy. People are crazy. And that's the only thing I want to be clear when we set dangerous precedents like that. Not that you set that, but you're going to see in this discussion, there are people who feel that way, that the government should ultimately get to decide what's best for people's kids. And that's a scary idea.
Scary. Yeah, that's why that's why I wanted to say something, not because I understood your point of view, because I agree with you. It's best to show them and teach them what's going on in the world. It is. I believe that. But at the end of the day, I think it's a slippery slope when we start saying you should be doing this with your kids if you're going to homeschool, because they could say the same, well, you should be teaching your kids what gay sex looks like, because that's what's going to be better for society in the future. And then there's an issue there.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Not only should they say it, they do say it. And you're going to see that in this panel. Well, maybe not to the degree of sex, but
yeah.
Strong Ballerina said, could you discuss that more in another live strict parent in the right way? I think we should. That'll be a good episode, but we kind of do go into that more in the vice discussion as well.
Okay. Yeah, we should definitely do that.
I want to go back to Mel's comment. He said that's because he needs to be taught. Women that show their butts online, men want to sleep with, but not want to wife them up in large numbers. That is a heavy distinction that many have a hard time making nowadays in the age of sexual liberation. They think that the attention they get means I have the choice to marry who I want. And that's the hardest thing, I think, for people to connect. He's referencing my little brother, like I was saying, that was combating my mom, saying you're out of touch. My mom was right. My mom has lived long enough to see this, and this 21-year-old adult kid is telling her what isn't reality. Like, that is mind-blowing to me. But I get it, because I was that 21-year-old adult kid who did the same thing. And I think that is the heavy trade-off that you take when you allow someone else to raise and educate your kids. You don't become their number one influence. If it ain't their teacher or who's around them, it is possibly more than likely going to be their peers. And it's going to be hard to win them back from their peers once their peers got them.
Yeah.
Sonia Scrapbook said, I agree with exposure in the home as well, but the school is not teaching them as these ideas exist. For example, about genders. They ask your child, you can choose your gender. That is true. And that is very alarming.
What?
In fact, my friend Kali, who is on the panel, the one sitting next to me, the Black woman, she actually spoke about this, and I'll share that clip one day, where she knew an experience where she was teaching in California, where there was a kid who the teachers encouraged to choose their gender and was calling themselves something other than what their parents called them. And the school hid this from the parents and allowed the kid to go around with this identity only at school. That's a major problem for me. But
I'm sorry. I'm confused. I'm confused on the part where it says they ask your child, you can choose your gender. What does that mean? For clarity.
So let's say your son, Chris, decides he wants to be a girl. Then they will call her Christina if that's what he would like to go by in the classroom.
What gender are you today?
Hold on.
And keep it from you. If they say that you're an unsafe place to be themselves, they're going to keep it from you.
What? Is this in certain areas that they're asking what you would like to be or whatever?
This was California. We know California can be extreme. So I'm not saying this is every area. I don't know how many places this is happening in. But this was California specifically being spoken about.
That is.
Mel said, honestly, there's effects on both sides. When you over shelter them, they rebel. But when you give them too much freedom, they get lost. There's no balance and guidance on both sides. Correct. I
disagree.
You disagree?
I do.
Why you disagree?
Because I don't feel like that's the case. I feel like you have a better outcome being over sheltered than you do when you don't have too much, when you have too much freedom. And I feel like you can see that clearly in large numbers. I'm not a statistics person. I really don't. I hate when I say I don't care because it sounds so like dismissive, and I'm not trying to, but I'm talking about in society and in life and working and everything else. You see these people and you can pretty much gauge and tell, call it stereotypical, call it what you want. You can tell who didn't have any rules and you can tell the ones who did. So over sheltering to me, I would say is more of being cautious. And I feel like you can see that.
Okay.
There's there's a big difference between protection and restriction. Protecting your kid from something, more than likely that's going to pay off. Restricting them from something, when they get on their own, more than likely they're going to do it. So if you have a sign, I use this as an example all the time. If you have a sign up in your crib that says don't eat donuts, and you restrict your kids from donuts, as soon as they get the opportunity to get to some donuts, they're going to eat them. And then there's you teaching them and protecting them. Hey, donuts are going to get you fat, possibly get you diabetes.
I see where you're going.
Yeah.
So properly educating them why it's bad instead of just don't do it.
Exactly.
There you go.
That is
the difference between protection and restriction.
I like the way you put that. That definitely puts into perspective where I was trying to go, but I couldn't verbalize that way. That was awesome.
Yeah, that's tough because that's me all the way. You tell me don't do something, I'm gonna ask you why.
I mean, I think that's nature though. Like you want to know.
Yeah, understanding is key. Mel said, I think you posted a video of this on your IG where they asked little kids about gender from liberal female teachers. Some are gay. Yeah. Mel,
And real quick, I was just gonna say to that point that I feel like, I know this is gonna be like backlash, but I feel like when you see the type of educators, they're more inclined to talk and discuss these things that pertain to them personally. And you can't stop or control who's going to be a teacher. So there are transgender teachers. There are those, I don't even know all the ways to properly address the population that's not heterosexual, but they're all different forms and fashion of people that are educators. But I feel like it's not as much, it's like those viewpoints are not as frequently discussed amongst those that are not in those categories. So that's another thing that I noticed, just by what people take interest in will be something that they revert to a lot. And now your child is exposed to that as well.
Right. Yeah, I see where you're going. Mel was rebutting you. He said, but he gave you an example when he worked with girls in the strip club when they were over sheltered. True.
That was an example.
But to Lakia's defense, I don't know if them being there is just because of being sheltered or more so because of the religious condemnation they received in their home. You're a whore for your skirt not touching your ankles. You know what I mean? Being condemned and treated like trash because of religious dogma, I think was more so what they were explaining to me. Like, these were girls that are like, I'm not just rebelling on my parents, I'm going away from God. I want to oppose everything that they told me this supposed heaven and father in heaven who hates me for what I do wrong feels about me. So I think it was more so not understanding God's love, because their parents were so dogmatic religiously than just the sheltering. But I can't just say that the sheltering didn't play a role, though. But I didn't properly clarify that caveat.
And that's a small percentage. So I'm not saying that that's not a potential outcome of someone who is over sheltered, just like drug use, just like anger issues. Like, I'm not saying that that's not possible. What I'm saying is, I personally don't feel that in every situation, those that are over sheltered rebel. I was over sheltered. I didn't rebel.
I mean, we're talking about people like I tell the story all the time briefly where, they felt like, I don't even want to wear my cross chain here because I'm not worthy of even representing my faith. I don't even want to be tied to Jesus or a symbol of him because I'm that nasty, wicked, and you know what I mean, opposing to anything he could love. That's how people were left feeling about themselves. And I think that's ultimately what leads them there.
Yeah, you're the first Jesus that your child sees. And if you're a bad example of that, then you end up turning against that. So
why are you killing my show like that, man?
What you mean?
Gosh, that was powerful.
Yeah,
that's fire. KJ say, how do you not know about the trans agenda towards kids? Who is that reference to?
Probably me. What do you mean? How do I not know about it? I don't take interest in it and I don't believe in it, so I don't do research on it.
Okay.
Simple.
Well, she gonna know today.
I mean, I'm open to hearing and discussing all things, but doesn't mean that that's like me asking how you don't know about nurses' life and workload and everything else. If you don't take an interest in it, and you're not in it, you don't know.
Fair enough.
And I don't do politics. I'm not on the news and all of that type of stuff. So it's just not my thing.
KJ said the religious spirit is worse. I agree. We can get back to this video in a sec. Mel said family values. I wish I can come up. I'm gonna drop the link a little later, sir. So let's get back to this. Getting straight into intense debate about the Vice debate.
One side is labeled as a bigot, white supremacist, homophobic. There's a lot of parents in America that are Christian or, they believe in two genders, gender binary. And if you say that as a teacher, especially, you could be labeled as homophobic. So there isn't this unbiased classroom because there's.
Sound like you got a thought, Smitty?
Oh no, those are just facts or whatever. It's not a fair classroom or whatever because of the agenda being pushed. It's almost a crime to be heterosexual now. So when you have heterosexual ideas that push against homosexuality or whatever, then you're automatically labeled.
Boy, you better go there.
Side can't really.
What?
And I think that's bad because it's really a simplistic way to just kind of get people out of your purview. It's like, yo, I don't want to listen to anything that this person has to say. As soon as you say something that sounds a bit conservative, they're like, oh, you're just another conservative label. Oh, and all conservatives are homophobic and transphobic.
Yes.
I mean,
even people who claim to not subscribe to politics do it. I was on a podcast the other night with one of our brothers that y'all know, and he does it to me all the time. It's like everything you say, believe, or present is because you conservative. It's like, my guy, could people possibly align with a side of the spectrum where most of their views just agree? You know what I mean? Why like what somebody can be conservative. First of all, let's go ahead and dispel that. Every conservative don't agree on everything. I'm gonna say some things in this panel that most conservatives aren't gonna agree with me about. So we got to stop that. To me, that's a cop out. It's a way to not have to have the intelligent debate. If you could just go to the straw man's arguments, the off base insults, then you can skate really having to face the issue. And I'm tired of it.
Yep. Just when
people
no,
realize, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, just to the point of people asking, like, how you don't know about the proper, like, I feel like that question about how do you not know about this towards children just is the same with someone saying, well, how do you not know about the pronouns? How do you not know about the LGBTQ community? How do you not know about this? Because I don't. I mean, it's just simple as that. It's not. So does that, you automatically assume that I'm against these things? You don't, not necessarily. I just don't go and do research on that. Right. So that's, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's always something to sideswipe anything or any viewpoint or perspective that doesn't align with the majority.
Well, one thing me and Kali was talking about, and she's the one that kind of got me into these spaces, doing these things, because she was like, hey, as a homeschool parent, people really need to hear your perspective. You know, you actually have important voice in this fight. And I'm like, okay, I never saw it that way. But she actually runs a nonprofit school herself that helps homeschool parents. She creates curriculums that go against these agendas, that actually teach the American dream and business and finance and the things that are going to help our kids actually be productive rather than being woke anarchists. And she gets a lot of flack for that. But I realized, like, okay, if we don't do something different, what's the point of us just complaining? So that's kind of what got me like, let me come up here and speak, because there are other people out here that need to see people that look like me, you know, willing to take a stand. And I'm realizing that, like, people just expect that the only people who have these views are middle America white people.
Right.
And that's becoming a problematic issue, that blacks are all expected to think exactly alike.
Yeah, that's wild.
Be, you know, as loud as the other side without risk of, you know, losing our jobs even.
But you two are kind of the ones that brought in the conflict of, like, there is an indoctrination going on and only one side, it has this opinion and this side is not allowed to talk and we have to be quiet. When really you guys are actually the loudest in regards to this issue thus far, right?
Right now, yes.
So,
in this room,
yes.
yes.
I wouldn't necessarily say that that's the quiet. What I would say though is, like, I do want to push away, if possible, and I'd love for you to hear this, right? Is that idea of someone sees me and they go, oh, you're one of those that teach that there's 72 different types of gender. Desmond Fambrini, he, him, gender fluid, bisexual. My students do not know this because it doesn't come up because I'm a learning specialist.
Now, I got to pause here. Desmond Fambrini, he, him, bisexual, with lipstick on, talking more feminine than any female on the panel.
Very
confusing. Severe confusion. And listen, you say my kids don't know about this. How? How do you think somebody can look at you and not know something's going on?
And then kids want to inquire. They're naturally, what's the word? I'm curious.
Why do you wear lipstick?
I'm telling you right now, if my son was in that class, I would have gotten a phone call, because he's gonna ask. And he's not being rude. He wants to know, because he doesn't see that. And this is, but then now is my child an issue? Is he being rude? Is he not respecting your, I don't even know. I don't even know. Like, is he not, he's 5, but you guys are putting all of this is what I'm talking about when I just said, you cannot control who's going to educate your kids? Even though I have to now, just so people know, I have 3 kids, one of which is not school aged yet, but he's registered in homeschool, and my other 2 are in school. So I'm coming from both sides here, and you don't know, who your child's teacher is going to be or anything like that until they make you aware. And then I don't know how I would respond if I seen on a card that picture. And I'm not targeting, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know how and then looking at the name too, I'll be like, wait, I don't know how it would feel. Do I need to prep my kid now to go to school before he learns because I need to teach him about this too?
Yep. Or what if your kid, sometimes kids take a liking to teachers. Teachers can be mentors to them. What if your kid is now like, I want to try to be cool like Desmond. And they come, now they want to wear lipstick and they just do it at school and not around you.
And that's the unfair part about this conversation. Because if we disagree with them, then we're homophobic and transphobic. And if they disagree with us, then it's all right.
Yeah,
of course.
It's okay.
Righteous.
Yeah, it's okay for them to slander us because by any means necessary, they must be accepted.
Well, yeah, if you're not in agreements with the left, regardless of if you're right or just not in agreements with the left, you're a bigot. Period.
Can't simply disagree without being labeled, which is insane.
Mel, funny thing here. He said, I call BS on him. He does teach it without saying it in words. Listen, can we stop acting like we don't get this? I'm going to tell you something that was said behind the scenes off camera, and they made sure to edit this out. And this is why I wanted to do this, for reasons like that. This gentleman actually stated out his mouth that he wears lipstick in the classroom so that the kids will see representation. Then you are indoctrinating, sir.
There you go, ma'am.
Wow.
Listen.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
He's a him.
Listen.
Respect the pronouns.
Listen. And bro was cool. He was actually a respectful dude.
Sis.
And that was the difficult part. I didn't even know, like, I ain't gonna lie, as much as I don't like the pronoun thing, I had no idea what to call bro. I really took a minute. I'm like, okay, kind of tall, hands look strong. That's all I could really do. Like, I was struggling because now with this transgender, I don't know.
And that's my point. So that's what I was trying to say earlier. I don't know, because it's just like, I can't even say that because that's not right. It's
Can't
just,
wrap your mind around it, right?
right. It's like so here's the thing. It's your preference. I prefer a lot. People don't care. Why is this something different? Why is it
the one thing in life we all got to cater to?
Yes, and that bothers me. It does. But what am I supposed to? Now you guys got me like ready to go snatch my kids tomorrow, because I'm thinking about, what if this person is in charge of educating my kids? Do I want to have that fight? No, I don't, because I know me. I'm going to be like, because this is black and white. This is facts. This is what it is. And that's preference. And it doesn't take the same.
Yeah,
no, I just don't know what I'm going to do. I feel like I got to say when I'm put in that position, because it's not even the if anymore.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. Vice obviously is a liberal media company. And I don't think there's anybody out here that moves without some level of bias. So I'm not faulting them. They did do a good job at representing us well, though. They didn't edit me in ways to try to make me look bad. They took things out, but at the same time, we was in there having a 3-4 hour discussion, and they brought it down to 45 minutes. So that's a lot of chopping that was going to be done anyway. But with that said, there were key things that I feel may have been left out because it looks bad. Like what I just told y'all, the transgender teacher in the front.
I'm looking at the comments.
The transgender teacher in the front even expressed to us that when maybe I'm wrong for saying his, but when his students ask him about his situation, he explains to them on a basic level that I used to be a female, now I'm a male. Because that's his story. And he feels no issue with that. And I'm like, listen, the guy or gal honestly really genuinely seemed conflicted with our concerns. Like even expressed at one point, like, I don't want to be indoctrinating kids. How should I go about it then? What am I supposed to do? Am I just supposed to not be allowed to be a teacher?
See, now I like, at least I'm saying, like, at least it's like that question though. Like, how do I not influence? What can I do differently or whatever? At least that's a thought, and it's not just like the other one, I can't even remember her name, that keeps talking like in more of a matter of fact tone, like this is how it should be because blah blah blah.
Right.
You gotta
be mental. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm listening. I'm just like, these, and then what grade are you teaching? Are they even ready to understand? Like,
right.
There should be standards on who is teaching our children. Yes, you should be Yes, you should be mentally healthy. Yes, you should not have your emotional issues being on the outside. You know what I'm saying? You're teaching your children something that is a mental illness, and that it's always been a mental illness up until now that we're trying to accept mental illness. This isn't normal to be this way. And like, oh, we'll get to that. I'm not even gonna go there. We need to watch the video.
Well, and I'm gonna get back to it just to elaborate on that point a little bit though. If you think about it in this perspective, I'm trying to figure out how to word this. I'm gonna leave that alone, actually. Let's read the comment. It's the parents' fault for giving their children over to the government educational system. God will hold you accountable for not protecting their minds with the truth. Ooh, that's harsh.
Harsh. I'm gonna push back on that.
Okay, I'm gonna let you push back, Kel. I will accept that it's the parents' fault. That's just accountability. You take what comes with your choice. If you choose that, you're accepting the possibility of what comes with that. Now, as far as God holding you accountable, I don't think most parents are putting their kids in public school to hurt their kid,
right,
or to be neglectful. I think most parents believe that it's best. I think we're in a society where we have to be retrained, and people just don't know. And Kylie even explains that, not on here, but in our conversation, like that's why it's important to talk about these things. Because as Lakia said, she didn't even know about some of these agendas going on. A lot of parents have no idea that these things, because it's subtly happening and they're not putting it in our faces. So I can't, I don't know.
And then a lot of the parents that are finding out about what's happening, they are getting told something else when they watch the news. Yeah. There's something that they trust. The news is saying these are just conspiracy theories. This is not really happening. And so they're like, oh, okay, it's not really happening, and that's convenient for them, because it would have been, to wrap your mind around what I'm going to do. I need to teach my own children. That can be overwhelming.
Yes. And even to Lakia's point, we're speaking from both sides too. We just started homeschooling in 2020. Our oldest kids, at least, were in the public school system. So we understand what it feels like to be on both sides. This is not an easy decision for a parent to just come out of what they have their whole life believed to be the norm. And I think honestly, 2020 reshaped the normal up for us. But prior to that, this conversation would have even went different for us. We would have been talking about how unnecessary homeschool is, just being all the way transparent. Go ahead, Lakia.
I was going to say, like, it's intimidating too. Like, especially my kids are young, they're close in age. And prior to my daughter having issues in school that I felt like was an issue with her safety, and me like digging deep and doing my homework on homeschooling, I was like, I can't do that. It's overwhelming. Like, it's too much to put together curriculum, lesson plans, and everything else. And then when I started looking it up, I seen that there's actually programs and there's so many different avenues. And going to the library, they got a whole homeschool section. Like, it's a whole lot there. But because it's not the norm and the standard, it's not really pushed out there. You got to dig for it. So until you actually do your homework on it and understand and it becomes more normal, a lot of people are not going to even consider it.
Exactly. It took me 2 whole years to finally feel confident in doing this. I've always felt like, oh, this I'm in over my head, right? But like you
Mhm.
said, you do enough research, you start to get talk to people about it. You see that there are curriculums and things that will help you and aid you. Half the time, I don't even have to teach my older kids because I just give them the curriculum. They do it. It's the smaller ones that you got to sit with, like you said, and it can be overwhelming. You can feel like you're not doing a good job, but at the end of the day, we're doing better than what a public school can do because they're getting that one-on-one time with you and you get to take your time with your children. So yeah, it's just a matter of getting over that
Right.
hill of feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, it's a scary decision. Especially like with how we see society. People have to go to school and get certain qualifications to become an educator. So naturally, you're going to think I'm unqualified to be an educator. That
Yep.
would be the common sense way of looking at it. So without these homeschool groups, talking to other moms that can give you reality and tell you, hey, calm down, don't be hard on yourself, take your time. If it take you a little longer on a certain area, that's the beauty in homeschool. If your kid's struggling here, you could spend all month on it, versus having to rush them past because the other 22 kids are beyond it and they just gonna fail. You can spend the time to get your kid what they adequately need. And that's something you have to learn and be taught from people who did it. Otherwise, you are going to be terrified thinking I have to keep up with a public school schedule or my child's going to be behind. My child's not going to be good enough to survive out here. So there are, I think, understandable fears that come to homeschooling. And I want to get to you, Kel. You had something you wanted to say.
I mean, no, y'all kind of took all my points. I lost my
Okay.
point on top of that.
GB said, stop expecting purity from the perverted. Stop expecting truth from liars. Stop expecting morality from those that love immorality. Enough said. I'll let you have that. In response to Mel, he said, never make the fiat currency control your decision. They print debt notes to control the population. You cannot serve God and wealth. 100% can respect that as well. But you're speaking as a man of faith. A lot of people just don't got the faith for that. And they need a little bit more of a practical understanding to build the faith for that. I mean, because to just walk away from your job and sit home and homeschool doesn't make sense for most families' situations. But the overall point of what you're saying, I can agree with. And hopefully from doing this, we can help build some people's faith in those areas. I wonder if some people have gender issues because of childhood molestation by the same sex. If that happened, that's all they know. Their gender issues need intervention with a psychologist. Touche. I'm going to leave that be because you're kind of spoiling the show a bit. So stay tuned, Strong Ballerina. YouTube has online classes you can teach them and free websites for online courses. Absolutely. You're in the age of information. Truth and lies are easier to access more than ever. The public school system was designed for fatherless children. Research men like John Dewey. I'm going to do that research because I believe that. I can actually believe that is possibly a sensible way to look at this. Some of my homeschooling questions were answered. Amen. So let's get back to this.
Before you, I wanted to add something earlier that a lot of us look at the structure of schools and think that that's how we need to structure our homeschool, and you don't. Actually, children learn better interacting and moving around and playing and hands-on, having them in the kitchen with you while you're cooking. Like learning is all day. And it doesn't have to be a formal pen and piece of paper to learn. You could just sit down and talk to them about whatever it is that you need. And it doesn't take the full 7 or 8 hours that it would take in a school than it does at home. Because like we said, we get that one-on-one time. There's lunch, there's getting in lines, there's a whole bunch of fillers and fluff that happens in school. You can achieve the same thing within 3 to 5 hours of homeschool 4 to 5 days a week. But we can move on.
Well, because the reality is that the public school system was created to prepare children to be industrial workers.
Yeah.
With the bell ring and all of these things, it was to program you to work in that environment. And this is verifiable fact that can be researched. So you're absolutely right there. But with that said, like I said, our friend Kylie, please go to thinkexodus.org if you got any questions. She could be very helpful to you, but she talks about that. That as a 15-year educator in the state of California, from transitioning to a homeschool teacher, she fully stands by the reality that public school is a bunch of fluff. And in the homeschool setting, a child does not need any more than 3 hours of education a day. That's what she says as a 15-year educator, that most of what they're doing in the public school system is babysitting.
I mean, you got 20 kids in a classroom with one teacher. Of course, it's going to take some time to try and, especially to try and get them all on the same accord and everything else. So.
And something Callie also said that really encouraged me was, half the time, if you don't know anything and don't know where to start and you want to take your kids out immediately, read. Just read to them. They will learn by you simply reading to them. They will learn how to read, and they will, especially with type of books that you're getting them, they will learn a lot from simply reading to them every day. So it doesn't have to be so,
black and white.
Hard.
Right. If you adequately educate your children how to read, if they can read, they can educate themselves. That's the most important thing. That literacy is the most important part of education.
Yes.
Because most of the education I have gotten in my life has been self-education. So that's the issue with the public school systems, with what's going on in Baltimore, etc., is that these young Black boys aren't learning how to read.
Yeah,
and we're steadily funding these schools, advocating against school choice while our kids can't read. That's absolutely unacceptable.
I see so much of like, it's so crazy to me to see how advanced my 4-year-old is being homeschooled, and my other two, like, they're where they need to be, surpassed that, but it's still, he's right there with his brother who's in school. And we were in Walmart and he's like, Mom, this is the kinetic sand. And I was like, what? And I'm like, what? Wait a minute. And we learned about that in the library. Like, they got these bags and like projects and stuff. But I'm like, you retained that? Like, I was so shocked that a 4-year-old said that. Like, so it's just, and then it's more enjoyable when it's with their parents. So of course they retain more because they're having fun and they're with mommy and daddy or whoever, versus it being beaten in their head and just on a slide board or whatever. Like, so I see it from both sides for sure.
Act like, homeschool parents are just gonna dangerously indoctrinate far right agendas, and it's just foolishness. Like, we took our kids to a whole dinosaur museum and we don't even believe in dinosaurs. I believe the whole thing is a fairy tale, but we still took them, and my kids can name every dinosaur that ever existed.
I don't know what it is about those dinosaurs, but them kids, they know.
They love it. So they're adequately able to exist in the world and society they're in, and have intelligent discussions on all perspectives, and still tell you, but what we believe is this. I think that is excellent. But let's get back to this.
It's my job to educate and teach a curriculum, right? Now, if I'm asked directly by a parent, or if there's confusion, oh, why do you wear makeup? Same reason why girls do, because it's fun for me. It doesn't need to be this very controversial, I'm gonna mess with this child's upbringing, they're gonna go home and they're gonna turn into a gender fluid and they're gonna think they're 72.
Real quick, I wanna address Molly Smiles' question. Said these public schools are ran like prisons. It feels like a drive of prison bus. I don't know why people act like public schools are creating wonderful social kids. And that was an add-on to this. Those are myths of drive school buses. Majority of these kids are teens and antisocial. They have no social skills. This is accurate. This is accurate. I actually have a friend whose daughter was literally glued to the phone to the degree where she didn't want to go outside or play with any of the other kids. This is a real thing. Like, this idea that homeschool kids are the ones that aren't social is beyond comical, because my kids, when they get invited to the birthday party, that's when the party starts. Like, it's just crazy to hear. Like, I just think we got so many preloaded talking points that's just honestly not true, because a homeschool student is not only interacting with their siblings if they have them. And most homeschool parents who don't have siblings, they're meeting with other homeschool parents, they're doing play dates, the kids are doing sports. Nobody is saying that the child's life should only be in the home. Right. Nobody says that. Just because you homeschool, when your kid gets out of public school, they still have extracurricular activities. So why do we act like the same can't be for homeschool? That's a retarded logic. But with that said, it's actually a study that say homeschool students actually are often more socialized because they are spending time communicating with an adult, versus students in a public school are only communicating for the most part with children their age. So they aren't being challenged to grow in their communication skills.
Wow. I mean, this is doing a lot for me because you guys might be familiar. I'm pretty sure you are. Like, my daughter going through the bullying in school.
Yes.
And
horrifying, by the way.
Oh my God. And she's good. She's okay now. But like, I took her to see a psychologist. And I'm like, I don't want this for her. And now she eats lunch with the counselor in school because she was having anxiety attacks. And I'm like, oh no, I'm just going to keep her home. And then of course I got attacked by family for saying, you're just going to teach her how to run away from her problems. How is she going to deal with things that happen in the real world? You're going to just keep her at home up under you. What happens if something happens to you? You're not there to protect her anymore. Like, I literally got crucified. And I'm like, well, can we talk about the health and happiness and everything of my daughter? Like, are we talking about that at all anymore? Because she should not be anxious on Sunday for school the next day, being in first grade, because this girl that looks like she's a linebacker is bothering her.
Correct.
And then the protection of the bully, the ones who's doing the bullying. Because I'm like, I want to talk to her parent. Like, let's have a conversation here. Like, that's what adults used to do back in my day. No, that can't.
That was weird. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, are y'all still here? Because
yeah. What was that?
Hello?
Yeah, I
think it must have been Phil. I think he got lost.
Yeah, he'll be back up.
Yeah, so that's the type of criticism that I was getting. Like, you can't tell her to run away from her problems, and she has to cope and learn coping mechanism and coping skills. And I'm just like, she, first of all, is unique. She started school during the pandemic online. So before that, she was home. She was all excited. The pandemic happened. They went back to school for maybe a week or two. They kept pulling them back and forth, back and forth. And then she's just online. And then when they went back to school, it was restricted just to their classroom. So everybody was friends. They were just happy to be in school. Then she gets to this new school where she's a new student to the school. Now they completely just threw them all back, like into going to lunchroom and all that, when it wasn't like that before. They didn't ease it in. They just threw them all back. She's like, what the hell is going, you know what I'm saying? So it's a lot to try and grasp and deal with when you're not used to it. But I got so much criticism for wanting to protect my daughter.
Wow.
And I left her, I took her out, I pulled her into the homeschool and everything. And then she started getting upset and saying how she misses her friends. And then I felt guilty because I'm like, well, damn, like, what do I, what do I do? I'm trying to protect her. I'm trying to do what's best for her. But I also don't want her to see like her brother going to school or something. And then, you know what I'm saying? So it was just a lot. Definitely a lot.
I remember 7th grade, I had just moved to a new neighborhood, man. First day on the school bus. I sit down. I'm already like, man, I got to go to this new school. I don't know nobody. I'm tired of moving. This was my 3rd new school in the last, 2-3 years. And one of the young boys approached me with another dude behind him, like, yo, this is our seat. I'm like, what does that mean? I mean, I don't understand. Where's my seat then? Like, nigga, I ain't worried about all that. This is my seat. And I'm like, bro, ain't no assigned seats. So then he looked at his homeboy and was like, yo, Shay, make him get up, Shay. Make him get up, Shay. So now everybody looking, and I'm like, man, here we go. I got on up. And I'm just like, it can be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Being in public schools. Like, really, though. Especially when you are going to a neighborhood where you don't know anybody. I think we undermine how big bullying really is.
Yeah.
And how often this is happening to these poor kids, man.
And this was all because they had an indoor recess. It started because they had an indoor recess, and my daughter was excited. They said, bring an item from home. She was excited to bring her brand new doll that had, like, you could dress it like a doctor, whatever. You could dress it in different occupations. So she pulled the doll out to tell, and then the clothes, they started laughing at her because who plays with dolls anymore? They have phones and everything else. Excuse me. Like, when I tell you, I lost my mind. I'm like, these fast ass kids, she wanted to throw the doll away. And I'm like, oh, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're doing what you're supposed to do. But she never even told me about this. If I wasn't so in tune with my child, I wouldn't have known.
That's
right. I said something is wrong and off with your behavior. You are acting different all week long. Mm-hmm. And she bust out crying. Like, thank God, Mom, for you asking me. Mm-hmm. But you get criticized and people like forget that they were kids, they were teased, they went through things themselves in school, and they make it seem like, oh, you're just trying to shelter her from reality and everything else. I'm like, she's freaking 7.
Right.
That shouldn't be reality.
You're supposed to protect her from danger.
Right.
That's your job as a mom. And Molly's touching on some things. She said, if your kid's getting beat up, we can't even break it up. Good luck waiting on dispatch to send help. And this is nationwide. That was my thing. I already got 2 boys ready to physically do whatever it takes to get me out the seat, and a whole bus full of kids looking, waiting to see them prove that they bad. I don't know who else gonna jump me. This is a terrifying reality for a lot of kids across America. And when she said it's literally a prison pipeline, this is more facts than we realize. That is prison behavior.
Yes.
You ready to fight somebody over where they sit in the lunchroom? That's prison behavior.
I had the cops called on me when I was taking the school bus in high school. Not on me, but on like the bus driver called the cops because the bus was so rowdy. So what did I do? I moved to the front because I'm like, I was a new student. I transferred high school from Philly to Montgomery County in 10th grade. And I'm like, talk about culture shock. I'm like, y'all get to leave for lunch? Y'all got cars up here? Wait a minute, what's going on? Is carpet in the school? Like, total culture shock. And I'm on the bus going home and they acting crazy and a damn fool. They called the cops. I was like, what? Like, what is going on right now? And I got in trouble because I was on the bus. I'm sitting up there, but I'm in trouble. Like, it's just ridiculous.
Mel, you on it, bro. Now send your kids out here with no hands. Nowadays, they need to know something. GB said you're a parent. You are to shelter her from danger when they 13 plus. That's when you can introduce the dangers of the world in a controlled marriage method. Us parents need to become bold. Absolutely. Molly said Philly is terrible, though. I went to Bartram High and Frankfurt High in Philly back in the day. Terrible. Listen, When my
Yeah,
kids
I
was
didn't have that issue in Philly though. I had it in the county.
That's crazy. Yeah, when my kids was in Philly public schools, I was like, yo, this is horrifying. Yo, Philly had just enacted what was it? A tax on sodas and sugar drinks.
Oh my Lord.
That
Oh
was
my
supposed
Lord.
to go to the schools. So listen, everywhere else in America, Arizona tea is $1, and Philly it was $1.89.
Listen, I remember I worked for the city of Philadelphia at that time and had so many people cussing me out because of the damn soda tax. And I was like, I don't care.
They
Like,
had a soda tax, they had a $2-3 cigarette tax, all these taxes that was supposed to go to the schools, and the kids still got bathrooms with no doors
and no air conditioning. Stop.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
And y'all talking about the schools need more
I'll be
funding?
right back.
No, they don't. We need our kids out of them damn schools.
Yeah, it's not going to the schools. It's going to pockets.
Oh shoot, Mel said Arizona tea's $1.25 now. Inflation getting everything. Arizona tea's been $1 for 30 years. Come on, man.
You even advertised $1.25 now on the joint.
Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. Molly said martial arts won't help these teens be strapped on the bus.
Talk about it.
You ain't never
Let's
lied.
talk about it.
I remember Lil Wayne talking about taking his gun to school when he was 13 because he had just got famous. And he just was like, yo, I'm just not about to be out here like that. And his mom caught the gun in his bag, was like, what you doing with this? And he told her. She was like, all right, put it back in there. I'd rather you have it than you not make it home. That's scary.
Yeah.
But you gotta think where Wayne is from, though.
Absolutely.
You know, so that I completely understand that. But
yeah, I mean, I ain't saying I would do it. I would, but I understand the logic.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if we can get back to this video without another feedback loop.
I think that's a question you say you should go ask your parents about how they feel about that.
Well, so
And
okay.
Teachers are supposed to teach reading, math, science, the things that are actually going to make them contribute members of society. Answering a child's questions about whether or not men or women should be wearing makeup or not is, I don't think, within that realm.
Okay, so you said science, right? And so we're talking about a physical science, we're talking about human anatomy and biology here. So a child says, I thought boys could not wear makeup. I have an X and Y chromosome and I'm wearing makeup. I could factually answer that without indoctrinating with any opinion.
But it's in no way scientific, your answer.
Why was that an intelligent response to him?
And she believes it.
Of course, anybody can put on makeup. The point is that you ain't supposed to. What the heck is going on in the world?
A question
How
whether
is
or
that not scientific?
I would say maybe cultural or it's a perception or an opinion, but it's in no way scientific.
Anyone else? I am a chatty person, so I'm going to take a pause and I'm going to let's see if anyone else has something to say.
So I just had one question for you, because not all homes are welcoming or open to conversation or safe. So how do we balance that?
I think that what we're saying is that there are certain conversations that are not to be had with a teacher. And I think that the argument that a lot of people on the right and conservatives are making is that we just don't feel as if actors of the state should be having conversations that are taxpayer funding conversations with children about conversations that have not come up in their own households. And to that point, if you can't talk about God in the classroom, why can we talk about every gender under the sun, right? I think that's the conundrum that we find ourselves in. If we are banning those conversations, we banned those a long time ago, then how can we have these conversations just because they belong to a different side of the political aisle?
So I think we actually talk about God in the classroom all the time, right?
Yeah.
Who's taught religion? Who's taught world religions? Who's taught like history in the way that, Puritans, and that's okay because God is part of the fabric of history and whatever else.
We talk about it from a development perspective. This is how Christianity originated.
I understand.
This is how Islam originated.
I
We don't
understand.
talk about like, this is what this gender is, and this is if you feel this way, then there's gender affirmation therapy,
So
all those things.
I think you actually bring up a really good parallel of like, I feel comfortable and I feel like it is okay to talk about identity issues the same way we talk about God, not indoctrinating anyone, not telling this is what you have to be or you have to believe, but saying this is something that some people believe.
But in the sense of gender identity, I don't see that parallel. How is that making someone more literate, more successful?
What I hear you saying is that learning about different gender identities does not make somebody a more considerate, well-rounded person, but learning about different religions.
I just noticed bro had the Dax waves going. the 360, put my do-rag on every night.
Yo.
I ain't seen it in a minute.
Has anybody in here gone to a high school or anything of that nature where they taught world religion?
No. That was a college course.
No. I never heard a teacher say anything about Jesus.
No, well, I do think and maybe Kel could correct me if I'm wrong. I think in our school system, we may have briefly learned about other religions around the world. But I don't go ahead, Kel.
So maybe in like world geography, and then they had AP courses. So I took an AP course in geography where they were talking about religions because it was part of the geography
exactly
itself, but it was like lightly touched upon.
Yeah,
it wasn't anything major.
But it wasn't teaching you to be a Muslim, or it wasn't teaching you to be a Christian. It was telling you what the dominating religion was in that area, right?
Exactly.
Right. It was just touching upon it. This is where it's at. This happened here, this city, there's this religion and all of that. Let's keep moving.
Yeah, you didn't come out with the understanding of the faith and its foundational belief systems.
Right.
Chantel Simone, what's up, sis? Appreciate you coming by. Mel, exactly. Never talked about straight religions. So yeah, let's get back to this.
Does make you a more considerate role model.
I'm saying that is a part of history. I don't understand where gender identity falls within what we should be teaching.
Religious history and God comes into play in terms of history, cool. But don't gay people and trans people too? It's not like I'm the first transgender person to ever walk this earth. Like there are trans people that were, and gay people who were part of major movements in this country, like from the civil rights movement.
Who cares? They're people. Do we distinguish straight people's history?
Right.
Your sexual choices has nothing to do with anything. Y'all are trying to make it a dominating part of your identity when it's not. This is your choice in the bedroom.
Right.
What you did in history should just be accredited to you as a person, not the fact that a gay person did it.
Exactly.
Feminist movement, I mean, obviously Stonewall, like, isn't that part of history too?
Let's just take a step back. So just show of hands. Who here thinks public school is the best option for kids? Okay. And who thinks private school is the best option for kids? Who thinks homeschool is the best option for kids? And then some of you guys didn't raise your hands at all.
It's so challenging to pick one right answer for that, because essentially what you're asking is, who do you trust the most with your children? Who do you trust to give them the cultural values that I have, and then fill in the gaps where I don't necessarily know the answer, but I trust that they're experts and are going to give my children the attention that they need in order to develop so that they can be a better version of themselves.
That dude was pretty cool behind the scenes, but what you just seen was his only comment of the day. And I seen a couple comments on that in the main comments of this video that are hilarious, because he was the doctor of education. I just thought for sure he was going to bring the most to this discussion. And I really lost faith in the importance of some of these degrees after this panel.
Yeah.
Had to choose one, it's public school. It is the best tool we have to give everybody a chance at a good education, no matter where you come from, how much money you have. Public schools, where not everybody thinks the same and people are coming from all walks of life, is a good microcosm of that global experience, where you can learn critical thinking skills and learn how to be a good community member, because not everybody looks like you or thinks like you.
Kali, you were shaking your head.
Oh, well, first of all, our schools are more segregated ever than our public schools, especially in blue states. New York and California have the most segregated schools. And on top of that, we are in a place where our public schools are not safe, especially the last 20 years. And I just don't see why sending our kids to these environments where it's unsafe. We also used to be, because I used to be on the left, we used to be against the institutionalization of our children. These kids are being institutionalized, having these places where there's 2,000, 3,000 kids. I'm okay with public school, but the problem with it is that it's become an environment where it's almost like the school to prison pipeline. We used to talk about that in the 90s. We're not talking about that anymore. And I think that's something that parents need to wake up about, and America needs to wake up about, the institutionalization of our children.
So I talk.
Great point. You just touched on that, Mel and Molly. They want to indoctrinate the kids so bad. That's what's the most disturbing about me, is why is it so important to you to indoctrinate our children? Why can't you just teach science, math, and history? I don't get that.
They want to change the truth, man. They want to change it so bad. So, and being that we growing up, we knew what the truth is and what it is still today here. Kids are very impressionable.
Yes.
They want to cause dissension and break up the family. And then when they grow up, they already change the narrative and change the direction. Now they can set that generation 3 to 4 generations back.
Correct.
Exactly. They want to rewrite history even. And we just was having a conversation because Phil is reading a Trump book, and it was talking about the 80s and 90s. And had we had not known about that, we wouldn't know what New York would have looked like before it is today, because things are being hidden from our children. We're not being taught our history. We're being taught genders.
I see what you're saying.
Right.
And I even talk about that coming out of public schools. For the most part, when it came to Black history, I just remember that we were slaves and we went through Jim Crow and was sprayed with water hoses. They missed the part about they breezed over the Reconstruction era, over all the great things that we did in the 20s and 30s, and they just skipped to make it look like the only thing we ever dealt with was racism, oppression, and not having any rights. And that's just not the reality.
I was going to ask, how do you guys feel about that? Because I just saw a clip on TikTok where it was like, why are we still even learning about that? That was history. That's not who we are. Let's learn about people that have come from these less fortunate backgrounds and are, like lawyers, doctors, things of that nature, and stop trying to make us angry all over again. That was
I think it has its place. I think in order to not repeat history, you need to know history. So knowing about slavery and stuff is cool, but we have to also adequately talk about these success stories. The most important part of Black history is that we're American history. Let's talk about the overcoming and the triumphs of Black Americans, because for me as a young man, it was hard for me to find a sense of identity in America because I thought all I ever was a slave. I thought that was our legacy. And then I found out that we had senators and politicians in multiple states across the country. We started the Republican Party of Texas. I mean, these are things that most of us have no idea about. And if I could relate to that and find out that I may have had an ancestor that was a senator in wherever state in 1918, that would make me feel connected to something important and make me see, okay, if we did it then, we can do it now. But when these kids are coming up thinking all we ever were slaves, beaten and sprayed with hoses, then that's all we're going to be now. They think there's no hope for Black people to achieve anything.
They want us to hate this country.
Yeah. They want us to hate us and keep us in that box. Because for the simple fact, the great things that we have done that they're keeping under wraps, it would teach the kids that, hey, we're very more than this. And it would change the opinions of who's in power.
Yeah.
Supposed power itself. Yeah. And the revolution that they don't want would happen. It would happen. It's going to happen anyway, but they're trying to keep it at bay. So that's why they keep replaying the same song.
My son told me, he was like, Mom, today we learned about Michael Jackson. I said, what?
Black History Month.
I can't with these.
Hold on. Right. For Black History Month, I said, what? And I had to ask, my first question was, well, what he look like? Like, was he brown skin or light skin?
Was he Black when you
who y'all teaching my son about right now?
Which Michael Jackson?
Mel said, think what Hollywood did to Woman King, where they made them look like heroes, but in actually history, they traded a lot of blacks in the Atlantic slave trade and actually lose many wars. There you go.
Oh, let's talk about it.
That's how you keep us ignorant.
Yep.
Keep talking about slavery and making us hate the white people that just walked up on the biggest continent on earth and snatched people up and put them on a ship. Come on, my guy. The reality is we sold our people.
Yes.
But we don't want to talk about that. If we talk about the fact that Africans sold their own people, then we got to stop blaming white people for our failures today. And we don't want to do that. So we got to create this narrative that a ship full of white men parked up at the biggest continent in the world and snatched up Negroes.
Not parked up.
No, they did park up because it was like what 4 or 5 ports. So they parked up.
They parked up. They pulled in and snatched up a bunch of Negroes and threw them on the ship without a fight. The same Negroes who fully revolted in Haiti and took over the country. But they quietly went on the ship to get there. Okay. Let's move on.
Pipeline all day, every day. And I hear what you're saying, that it's terrible that there are parents who are sending their kids to schools that are not safe. However, what about the parents that don't have a choice? Like, I'm thinking about like the most marginalized community when I said public schools here, because I agree with you. The public schools have a lot of work to do to become the safe places where our kids are not in institutions where they're ignored or not giving the services they need. And also, for the people that don't have a choice and that is the only option their kids have, I just believe that's worth fighting for. That's why I said
absolutely. I'm a big advocate for school choice.
Well, why don't we just show of hands? Who believes in school choice?
Can you specify like what do you mean by
So that's where parents can apply the money that they pay to taxes. They get vouchers and they can put that into any school that they want. It's
mind you, man, I'm struggling with this. Are we gonna let's have a consensus? Is the young man who was a lady in the gray suit, are we going to refer to that person as he or her for the rest of the show? Her. Okay. So she, mind you, is a New York City public school teacher. So it makes sense why she has no idea what school choice is. That says a lot in itself.
very popular in red states right now, and a lot of blue states are against it, especially teachers unions are against it because it's taking money away from the public schools and creating more of a competitive market.
Right. That's why I wouldn't raise my hand.
Yeah.
Sometimes with school choice, it gets a little bit tricky, right? My first class had, the first day I had 25 students. By day 2, I had 19 because 6 parents switched out of the class because they saw me and they were like, there's no freaking way.
I would love to hear your thoughts on that. How dare those parents, huh?
Can you make us bigger?
Let's do that. How dare those parents remove?
I can see how this will be controversial.
Let's go there.
I don't want to be the first one to, though.
Anybody want to take the first stab at it? Or y'all want to hear the responses first?
Yeah, let's hear.
Let's hear the responses.
Okay, let's hear the responses.
Got a word in.
As a parent, I would want to know, like, do you not think that that is okay or they're right to withdraw when they see you? Because ultimately, you're probably an excellent educator.
I appreciate that.
I have no doubt about that. But I think we get into muddy waters when we start trying to take that choice away from the parent.
Do I think that it is okay for a parent to see me and go, not around my kid? No, I don't think that's okay. I feel like that's really crossing the line because you are, for lack of better words, discriminating against me openly. That's like seeing a black teacher and being like, there's no way. It is the same. It is the same.
It's still the right of the parent to make that decision as to whether or not they want their child to learn from you.
Okay.
Like, it's still that parent's right. Like, you can disagree with their motivations, their motives, their ideas.
Would you say
but it's still their child?
This started around school choice.
Okay, so he about to take it somewhere else. Chantel Simone, you missed this part of the broadcast. This question I struggled with for about 2 hours straight when I walked in that room. It was really difficult to be sitting there with no idea who I'm sitting next to. This is the biggest thing for me. The amount of confusion that creates for a child. I even heard stories of children who went to class and their teacher, let's say Mr. Kenny, was now Mr. Kim the next day. Can you imagine how traumatizing that is for a child?
My God. Or imagine the students that has the teacher with the big, huge breast implants out to here talking to them all up in their face. And he's a man.
Yo, it's like we're literally living in the Twilight Zone.
So
go ahead, Lakia, get us. Let us hear.
It's slippery slope here, but I'm gonna try.
Okay.
The comparison to is like seeing a black, of course, black. Can you say Asian? Nothing else, of course, the black. But to seeing a black person is discriminatory. I mean, I can't be born with the choice of what race I'm going to be. But, and I'm not saying you can't wear makeup, but is it confusing? Is it more confusing to see a man with makeup than it is to see a black person? Yes. So I agree with the young man. I don't know any of their names. I apologize. Who said it's the parents' right. Ultimately, people tell me all the time, I don't want that black beep, beep, beep taking care of me.
Come on.
Cool.
Come on.
To each his own. One less headache for me. Check. Thank you for telling me. So I don't even got to deal with your shenanigans.
Exactly.
Their choice. It does not matter what you feel the reason is. I'm pro-gun. People don't agree with me, but that's my choice.
Right.
That's their beliefs. You cannot try to be abstract in one manner. You want to be abstract in one manner and identify differently and everything else to cause all of this conflict because everybody has to know about your personal decisions and preferences, but then be offended when somebody doesn't agree with it.
Chantel just took the straight Jamaican approach on this. I'm not doing the batty boy. It happened.
It's just I would do the same thing. I don't feel like I don't want to have that conversation yet. Maybe I don't ever want to have the conversation. You can't, it doesn't matter what my reason is. Maybe I don't want a man teaching my kids in general because I got a daughter.
If your sole purpose for being there is to teach and school choice pops up and a majority of your classroom disappears, then it's probably time for you to change your appearance, especially because you know why.
Come on, bro. And that goes with any facet of life.
Yeah, it would be a thing like if he didn't know, like, why the hell are all these students leaving? But you know why. You know why.
Think about it, bro. The dude is a private educator. He don't even work in a public school. I think he like runs his own schooling service of some sort.
Who?
That guy.
Which one?
Lipstick.
Okay, so.
Well, if he's private,
I wonder if
anyway.
Exactly.
Right, and
a business decision.
And you probably wouldn't want to be you probably felt more protected in the private school realm than you do in public school.
So when I say private school, I mean like he does something, and I'm trying not to misquote him, but something along the lines of direct contracts with the parents to educate their children, almost like a homeschool teacher.
So alone one-on-one time with your child.
I don't think it's one-on-one. I think it's all the kids collectively that have signed up.
Okay. And I wonder who those kids are.
Liberals.
Yeah.
The same kids who parents are saying, pick your gender.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And that's, I mean, we just shooting from the hip. We don't know.
I know.
I mean, it's crazy though. Like, it's saying he think it's discrimination, but it's like, I know why you don't like me, but why you don't like me? It's like
we discriminate every day. That's all right. Like at the end of the day, when it comes to business, I don't want Taco Bell's meat. That's discrimination. I'm gonna get my taco from another place.
Right.
Or you go to a restaurant and you see them dealing with your food with no gloves on.
I'm discriminating.
That's a simple fact, bro. I mean, you being a married man, when you married Jazz, bro, you decided to discriminate against every other fucking woman on the planet.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. If we're going strictly and solely based on preferences, I discriminate because I'm not interested in shorter men at that time. I want someone taller than me.
But what that really exposes is that they don't want you to have a choice. They don't want you to have a choice. So it's like, if I'm going to teach your kid with makeup on my face, you just better be fine with it.
And you should now educate your kid on why it's okay for me to wear this makeup. No.
Molly coming through with the gems. To me, that panel was racist. White liberals trying to tell black married couples how to educate their black children. Ooh, listen, not just trying to tell them, but almost ridiculing our stances on how we choose to educate our kids.
And that's the difference. It's the difference when you can respect that everybody's an individual and everybody has their choices, preferences, and everything else. But then to criticize and try to belittle someone for their choice is insane to me.
And you mind you, being homosexual, being black isn't the same. Bro actually tried to make the correlation.
Right. No, one's a preference.
I'm like, bro, at the end of the day, you can't change your skin.
Right.
At any day, Desmond Fambrini can decide to sleep with women. In fact, he does choose from day to day because he said he's bisexual. I can't be biracial. That's a choice that's made.
I identify as biracial.
Yeah, that's a choice that's made for me. I can't decide to be biracial.
So you can identify as whatever you want, basically.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah, I'm a track the trailer sometimes. Let's get back to this, man. Right, because I think he didn't raise his hand in the beginning in favor of public school. Exactly. Mel said, how these transformers go to straight clubs and fooling a guy, they are real women. When dudes find out, they try to say they homophobic. Remember what happened with singer Genuine with that trans. Great comment.
What happened?
We're gonna get to that. Yeah, that's gonna be a very important comment later. Because that was kind of a point that things kind of took a turn.
Even if you want to decide on a different learning environment for your kid, the people that do not have the option to send their child to a different place, the bar should not be so low. And that's my concern with school choice, is that sometimes people think that if everyone flees to the suburbs, who is teaching in these schools where everyone has decided they don't want their tax dollars going to? And that's one of the big concerns. With funding of education being the way that it's set up, it essentially makes it so that the people that are stuck with these as their options don't end up with as good a school. And everyone deserves to have their kid go to a good school.
Well, if there's school choice, they won't be stuck with those options. They can have other options. That's the whole point of that. Also, it is the school district's job to appropriately use those budgets. Most of the budget in the schools aren't going to the teachers. We got cafeteria workers, janitors, all of these people that are getting paid.
It used to be 9 out of 10 people that were employees of schools and districts were teachers. Now it's 50-50.
Yes.
So there is some mismanagement of funds in this country. We actually fund our kids really well.
Yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Too many administrators.
Just to go back a little bit to like when you guys are raising your hands about the different choices, you raised your hand for homeschooling. Can you talk us through like why do you think homeschooling is the best option?
If we look at the history of this country, a lot of people were homeschooled. A lot of our founders were homeschooled. Like they only went to school till 3rd grade, a lot of them. And I think what has happened is parents have decided that the government is going to do a better job at raising their children than themselves. We have also come to a place where school is taking up the majority of our day. And we have this mistrust of parents that they can't educate their own children. And I think that that's wrong. I think that a lot of parents, and if you look at homeschool data, like my friend Phil right here, he's got 7 kids and he's homeschooling them all. And actually homeschool kids are turning out really well.
I think you bring up a lot of very valid points, but I have to say, and I just want your opinion on this, I would never homeschool my own kids. And I want my kids to be smarter than me, than I ever was. How am I going to have a child that is smarter and does better than I do if I'm their only teacher?
You grow alongside your child.
Okay.
I think as a teacher, I feel like I've learned the most in my life as a teacher, like more so than in college. And, so parents becoming teachers is actually good for them as well.
Okay.
And then even in the public schools, a lot of teachers are relying on the lesson plans. But speaking from experience, I got to give the credit where it's due. My wife does the homeschooling in it, and I've watched that process of her learning alongside, to make sure when they ask these questions, I'm getting knowledge on the material as well, so I can help you get through it. Nothing replaces that value, that bonding time that she gets to have with the kids.
I taught high school for 6 years and I quit. And I'm a stay-at-home mom with my own kids. So we're a one-income family. We're lucky enough to be able to live off of my husband's salary. Would you say that most homeschool families have one parent working?
I do think the statistics show that is the case.
It's like the only way to do it well.
Pretty much. And another misconception, though, is that they think it's a matter of income and homeschool families have to be rich and et cetera. And I think the average homeschool family makes like $65K. So the reality is they're scaling back and making sacrifices for this lifestyle because they value what is coming out of it.
So let's just say that for the people that homeschool isn't an option, what is for so many people it's not, I do not think that school choice is the way to go about that, which I know is a lot of people's answer to that.
Can we just...
Who said what?
Me. That doesn't make sense. Like, why doesn't school choice, like you as a parent picking the best educational opportunity for your child, why is that a bad option?
Because it's going to marginalize the kids who they saying can't exercise those options. They're going to be stuck in a bad school with poor funding. And
they already are.
Exactly.
So do they call it something else? Because when you guys first said school choice, I'm like, I don't know what that means. I know we have, but they tell us like we have the option to choice out our kids. So I'm assuming that's what that is.
So when you say choice out your kids, what does that mean for your district?
Basically, like if their feeder school is this one and I want them to go somewhere else, I select that that's where I want them to go.
Okay, yeah.
And
essentially, yeah, that's
but that's not the like assigned school.
Right.
So
yeah,
is
that's
that the same?
School choice, yeah.
School choice.
Right. But a lot of teachers unions are fighting against the right to do that all over the country.
So that's what she's saying. She would feel like it's not the way to go to choose a better school based on statistics and data.
Correct. Because that's going to leave some schools with less funding because they see your child as a paycheck pretty much. They fill out those federal cards every year. They get a certain amount of money for each kid. When your kid goes to another school,
they don't get it.
That's money they losing.
And
so improve the school that's people don't want to be at.
Mm-hmm. And like Callie said, that will create a market where schools will have to compete and actually do good.
There you go.
There you go.
So like I'm libertarian in my beliefs. So like the public system, it doesn't work. Like you look at Baltimore barely has students that can do math. Like I believe a video that I watched, I think it was like one student in a whole entire school was barely adequate at doing math. So to me, one thing that was found out during COVID or whatever was how nasty and corrupt the public school system is. And I believe that the tax dollars should be given to the people in order to do what they want to with their kids. I believe that if you're homeschooling, I think you should get a voucher to help you homeschool your kids. But of course they won't do that because they have to keep the machine going or whatever. So the chances of,
Go ahead. I thought you were
the chances of that voucher system ever happening is probably low. So school choice is probably the best option, or just homeschooling on your own. And then even when it comes down to homeschooling, a lot of people have a bad idea about homeschooling. it's because of preconceived notions of the past before the internet was a thing. Like now we can actually look up curriculums and things of that nature. I mean, even back in the day, you can go to like a bookstore and pick up a curriculum. But a lot of people frown down at homeschooling is just preconceived notions of the past. And they're not taking any of the information that's out there today and actually making that valuable. They just straw man anybody who homeschools their arguments. They straw man all that shit.
Yeah, like when I was having that debate, I believe my sister was like the main one debating with me, of course. And I was telling her, like, listen, she doesn't have, her idea was so close-minded of what homeschooling is, and a lot of people feel this way, that I'm like, there's trips, there's groups, there's this, and I'm like, she's not gonna just sit in a house all day. I'm like, that's what you don't understand. And she's like, so what is she going to do about social skills? I'm like, I just literally said it, but, and not the fact that she has siblings, that she's at home, that she does everything with me anyway. You know what I mean? Like, she's learning more by asking questions. When she didn't do well on some math test, they brought it home. I made a video about this months ago, and I was like, what kind of math is this? Like, what are y'all teaching them? I'm like, this makes no sense. Like, take the group and then the additional blocks. I'm like, I'll be confused as hell too. So I taught her the old way, the old school way. If you put in 10 plus 10, draw a line down the middle, this side and that side, picked it up like that, and she started excelling. I'm like, who else to catch that and not label my child as having a learning curve issue or something else but me? So I do agree with Smitty. I feel like it's lack of understanding, and people are so close-minded to something that's not their norm. Like my niece got in, a whole principal came and everything. The little boy did like this to her, Philly, of course, but he did like a little I'm gonna shoot you sign and all this other crap, and my niece talking about fighting and tearing him up, and I'm like, and that was applauded, and I'm like, I don't want her having to deal with that. So if that makes me a less than parent, or I'm sheltering her too much or whatever, I'm like, then so be it. Obviously we don't live there or whatever, but still, like, it's just that mentality. Everybody is against what's not the norm for them.
Absolutely. And Molly Smile, I concur on that. I've actually met her son, and he's a very socialized young man. He look you right in the eye when he talks to you. He's confident, he's respectful and respectable. These narratives are like so far from the truth, because I'm telling you, what I'm seeing in these schools, these kids are literally what these people are saying they're afraid of. They cannot exist outside of their phone. They rather text than have a conversation with the person right in front of them.
Like, my son is trying to write his name. He's 4. Like, it's just all the things. I'm like, why am I putting, there's no cap when you're home. There's no cap on, oh, we're going to learn this chapter. And and that's why DJ brought home this packet of words that's like first grade level, because he's already surpassed where he needs to be, because he's learning at home too. And he does like the library and stuff, but it sounded so overwhelming at first. And I wish, like, I know you've had these talks, Jazz, but like, I feel like we need to do something again too for people that don't strictly homeschool, so they can get that perspective too. Like, it seems so overwhelming because you don't know all of the tools and the resources and everything else. Because at first I'm like, how am I creating a lesson plan? I'll order all this stuff off Amazon, all unnecessary, honestly.
Yeah.
And it's who knows where it's at right now. But like, the different ways you think about, you just explain everything. Kids ask a million questions anyway. You know what I'm saying? So yes, they articulate well and everything because they're interacting, but it's just a lot more overwhelming, the thought of it, than it really is.
And the biggest beauty about homeschooling is that you know your child best.
Yes.
You know how your child learns best, and you create that curriculum based on their personality. And that's what allows for a lot of homeschool students to excel past the public school students, because they're learning their way, not this one set way where they have to sit at a desk all day.
Yeah, I agree with Molly on this. She said I sent my son to a so-called good charter in Philly for about 2 months. That was it. I pulled him out, sent him to private school, and eventually moved back down south. Philly is no place for kids. Listen, Philly's horrible. I'm from Philly, born and halfway raised, but that's where I'm from. And I haven't lived in Philly since my kids have never attended like Philly schools or anything like that. We've been out of Philly for a long time, but it's still like a majority of my family. I think everybody is there except for one person. And I'm sorry, like I posted something on my social media where I was like, my kids can't be around your kids. Like, and that's because it disrupts my values and beliefs and the way these kids interact. And it's not me taking a jab toward anybody or I think I'm better. It's not that, but that's not how I want my kids to act and what I want them to be exposed to. So I don't feel bad about that.
Man, I used to ride past them charter schools all the time and see them kids out there in a circle fighting right outside the charter school in their uniforms. That just was putting a dress on a trash bag.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to tell you, because even when I was in school, elementary was good. My middle school was horrendous. I went to Pickett before. Now they didn't change the name to something else. I forget what it's called now, but I went to Pickett and then I went to Mass Bomb. And I went to Mass Bomb for 2 years, and then I finished my 2 years at Plymouth White Marsh. And I don't know where I would be if I continued through in high school in Philly.
I don't think you guys should ever feel bad about homeschooling or whatever, because even when you're failing, at least you're failing in good faith. It's not a paycheck. You know what I mean? It's for the betterment
That's
of
wisdom, Smitty. Say it again. Say it again.
Smitty came with some heat today, man.
Say it again. I need you to say that again. You're failing in good faith.
Yeah, you're at least failing in good faith, yo. It's not for a paycheck. It's for your child, and he's gonna love your child like you.
It's funny you said that. I was in the comments of the original Vice video, and somebody was saying women these days don't want to homeschool because they're not getting paid for it. Teachers actually get paid for them, so they're not getting rewarded or a paycheck. And it's like, that's sad that if that is why people don't want to do it, because the reward comes in with what you see in your children, the growth that you get to see that was due to your hands and your teaching.
And like I agree with Phil when he said on the panel, like watching my wife alongside the kids, like you learn at the same time, because let my kids ask me something. My pride, I need to look it up. So now I'm finding out stuff. Like I think my son asked me something the other day and was like, we learned about it. And I was like, no way. And because I need to know. So I'm learning stuff too. And then like if we go to the library, even when stuff comes on TV, 9 times out of 10, I didn't approve what we watching anyway, or something. Like we're not just free forming out here watching this nonsense. But if something comes up in there, I'm like, oh, really? I didn't know that. Like, and I'm looking it up. So it's just people are afraid to fail. People are afraid to fail, afraid to be criticized and do something different that everybody's not doing. And people are trifling. Let's just put it there. People want the break from their kids for those 7-8 hours. And they value the time away from their children. And then, not to mention, if we really going to keep going, they don't have the men in the home. So they feel like they can't do it anyway. So they're more worried about their coin and being able to go out.
Man. Yeah, you're right. But
we say it all the time. It's all about what's important to you. Go ahead, Jazz.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of what you were saying about learning with your child, like when you sit there and your child's like, I don't get this, and then I look over and I'm like, I don't either. Let's look it up. Let's look up a video and see how to figure this out together. And when you do that, you teach them how to learn, how to search knowledge. So they're learning in so many different ways.
And they get that undivided attention, not hold on a second and forgot about. Because I've had my daughter say, like, I told her, but she forgot probably. And I'm noticing she forget a lot. And I said, oh, okay, yeah, we're going to have a conversation, because this is the third time you said something and she's shy as it is. So it took a lot of courage to say it. And then you say, okay, and I understand though, you got 24 students in this class to one teacher. And it's like her first official year teaching, like before she was an assistant. So I'm like, she trying to get her groove and everything. I understand, but at the expense of how many years before you find that, you know what I'm saying? Like, so and she's an amazing teacher, but I'm just saying, like, your kids still have to be exposed to all of that, is my point. And if you can rely on another individual to do it, why not do it yourself?
And it's a lesson in humility for them to see mom be able to say, I don't know, let's learn. That's important.
Yeah.
Because the teacher ain't gonna do that. I didn't see my teacher stomp when I ask questions, and they gonna find a way to either ridicule me or act like they know and don't got time.
Yep.
They want to be the answer. They don't want to teach our children how to find answers on their own. Critical thinking skills is out the window nowadays. That's why I get so annoyed when they say, well, parents they don't have a diploma. They didn't go to school to learn how to teach. We are setting them up for much more success than y'all, because y'all like, we the answer. Y'all come to us for the answer. No, we're teaching our kids how to go and seek knowledge and find the answers.
Right. And that's important. And then also for the fact that I don't need a diploma to give birth and to go and raise what you think my child was doing and learning before they were occupied to enough to come into your class. Number one. Number two, this is just a portion of their day. So them conducting themselves and everything else and grasping the material comes from home. And then number three, when it's also a disadvantage for kids that were like me. I was like the one sitting there waiting for everybody to catch up, but it was nothing at my pace. So now I got to rely on my parents to come to the school and say, well, can we put her in advanced class? Which my dad was not a fan. He's like, I'm not going to the school for nothing. I don't even think he came till I graduated. So it's like, who's advocating for that part as well? Maybe this is too slow and I'm losing interest, and now I'm acting out because I'm bored and I got everything done. Exactly. So
number 4, shut up and mind your business, because it's my child. It's just that simple sometimes. Like I'm insulted by the idea of these educators thinking that their 4 years in school gives them the right to decide what's best for my kid. They look like me for a reason. God gave them to me to cultivate. Like the nerve of these people, man.
Yeah.
Let's get back to this.
Plus, education doesn't always equate to intelligence. So
there you go. There you go.
Facts. And honestly, it usually equates to the opposite nowadays.
Yeah.
When we're talking about these universities.
Get Sean in here. What are your thoughts on this?
School choice gives people an exit ramp. You get to send your kid to a school that best fits what you think is best for their development. At the end of the day, it's kitchen table conversations about, we've worked hard to raise a family. We want to spend our money in a way that best fits our child, best fits our family. And when you don't have school choice, you do make those trade-offs. There are real consequences there.
The school is considered one of those shared spaces, one of those last kind of shared spaces where you might bump into someone who maybe comes from a different background than you, has a different ideology than you. What do you lose if you homeschool and then you're not putting yourself in these kind of situations?
What you lose is negative influences. One of the biggest things I think when it comes to homeschool is keeping my kids away from your bad kids. We've went and taken our children to pride parades. And you know what I mean? We've been there, we've been loving, and we showed support to the people there. But at the same time, we explain our views on the matter, that we believe marriage is between a man and a woman. And from experience and talking to people, I understand that a lot of people who choose that lifestyle, it is based on trauma. A lot of were molested or sexually assaulted as children. So I don't think it's okay for me to teach to my children that this is something normal we ought to accept when it doesn't progress society. We would not be able to procreate if everybody were to choose that lifestyle.
So this is where it's about to get funky.
No, you didn't. I'm over here like the gas. I gust. Oh my God! I said he went there. Okay, completely.
Did you see my man's face?
Yo, you saw the screw. You saw the screw fall out of his ear and the glass shatter in his eyes. He was like, "What in the fuck is this nigga saying?"
He just told my life. What am I gonna do?
I'm sitting here like, man, Lord, don't make me have to whip this gay dude ass on Vice right now. Like, cause I could see that he was high. He did not like it.
Yo, when you said that,
yeah. But this is
the response.
This is the thing, though. Okay, let's get to that before I go into that.
think it's okay for me as a parent to say, hey, this exists, that exists, but this is our view on it, and this is how we want to present it to them.
Do you think it's somewhat problematic that you're going like, well, this is our viewpoint, that marriage is between a man and a woman because we can't move society forward with gay couples? Like, we have factually proven that incorrect. I can actually tell you that gay parents on average make exceptional parents and do exceptional things with kids because they adopt, and they only adopt kids when they are financially capable, which actually makes kids of gay parents actually more successful and academically competent. Gay parents actually are very good at moving society forward, and we have the statistics to prove
Could that be a long-term solution, though, if a large population chose to choose that lifestyle? There would be no children to adopt.
No one is choosing this lifestyle.
That's opinion.
Sure.
It's just
Bro, right there, right here. When you said that, bro, and I went through those doggone YouTube comments, bro, you broke that whole comment section. Bro, I remember like one comment in general, it was like, yo, T-Pain crazy for thinking that being gay is a choice. I was like, what the fuck do you mean?
And they missed the total point of what he was saying. Now it's like, oh, wait, you said it's not a choice?
It's not a long-term fix. If everybody did this, society won't move forward solely based on that. You still need the children to adopt.
Exactly. Like there will be no children to adopt. What are you
and that's
talking about?
literally what I ended up saying. Like, how long are we talking about? That, okay, so what? Gay people are able to adopt kids and be somewhat adequate parents, or at least better than the kids would have gotten without adoption. Cool. But there won't be no kids to adopt if we normalize homosexuality. That's the
I need to see the comments.
Yo, the comments, they snapped. And so I want to point out one thing though. When I brought up the reality that it's not okay to teach my kids that this lifestyle is normal because it's a lifestyle based out of trauma and as a result of kids being raped or molested. I know this to be a fact. I have had this conversation with people. I know this. People are arguing with me in the Vice comments that that's just so wrong of me to assume. It's not an assumption. I personally know this to be a fact. I ask uncomfortable questions to people. Same way I brought up me DJing in the strip club and knowing that most of the dancers came from strict religious background. I know this the same way. I have conversations, but people who have never done the investigative work want to argue with me and try to shame me and say I'm hateful. I'm like, nothing's hateful about painting the reality. What I'm saying is, if we know that this comes from a place of egregious childhood trauma, then normalizing it opens more kids up to endure that trauma.
Yeah.
And where they lost themselves is it was no longer about the education, because you were talking about education. It's switched from education to themselves. They got offended and then they started talking about themselves. It's not about the kids. And I always pay attention to those little underlying things that people usually don't pay attention to. They're not worried about the education. They're worried about them and how they come off and people accepting them. That's what they're trying to teach kids. That's the indoctrination. Accept me. Accept me.
Yeah.
But this is the beauty in it all, though. No matter how offended people are in the comments, nobody on the panel challenged me about that part about the rape and molestation. They all got quiet.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
They all got quiet and they breezed over. Mind you, this is editing, so you see them cutting the quiet time. They were quiet for 10 seconds. Nobody said a word. They know it's the reality. They know that it's the reality. Even my conservative sister next to me, like, she was getting a little uncomfortable. Like, whoa, now.
Right. But that's the thing. Like, people don't want to talk about this, but that's absolutely how a lot of people feel. I'm surprised well, no, I'm not surprised, because you said this is a liberal channel or whatever. So I'm not surprised, but I feel like you post this same video to a more open platform, I'm not even gonna say conservative, people will be truthful and just be like, where's the lie? The problem is people take things too personally and they want something to argue about. The facts are man and woman create offspring. That's just the facts. So you're talking about waiting till you're financially set to adopt the children made by man and woman.
Exactly. So that still means you're
It's not a long-term solution when you need those two to make those kids that are going to push society forward, quote unquote.
Exactly.
It's
So
just
at the end
factual.
of the day, it only further proves my point. And so like you said, Smitty, they're trying to argue for themselves, and they're missing the importance for me as a parent on why what y'all are saying is just not a sensible approach to education. And that's it. It's not hateful. It's not me wanting you to not exist or be able to freely enjoy your life. I don't want my children to learn from people with your ideology. That's all.
That's it.
Because what you're arguing right now tells me what your perspective is going to be when you're teaching my kid.
He instantly forgot that you called him a brilliant educator, or possibly being a brilliant educator earlier. That completely blanked from his head, and all of a sudden it's like, hold on, bro, I didn't choose to do this, so let me get on you about this.
Right.
Let me talk about me real quick, because you missing the point.
Right.
So this is gonna come back full swing to Mel's point earlier in a second. Let me back it up a second so we can get the right context though.
Make exceptional parents and do exceptional things with kids, because they adopt, and they only adopt kids when they are financially capable, which actually makes kids of gay parents actually more successful and academically competent. So gay parents actually are very good at moving society forward, and we have the statistics to prove
Could that be a long-term solution, though, if a large population chose to choose that lifestyle? There would be no children
Okay,
to
so first of
adopt.
all, no one is choosing this lifestyle.
That's an opinion.
Okay,
It's not an opinion. It's just.
Okay, sorry.
Did you choose to be straight, sir?
I've been teaching for 15 years.
Mind you, they skipped my answer.
What'd you say?
I will say.
I said, yeah. What you mean? Like, this is crazy. That's like, that is me.
I didn't know what you were gonna say. That's all I'm asking. I didn't know if you was gonna be like, I was born this way. We all born straight. We make choices to be other. I didn't know what you was gonna say.
I make the choice to do what's natural, and that's to put my sexual organ in the other puzzle piece that it fits into perfectly and creates life.
Right. Now, hold on now, because that puzzle piece can fit in another part.
Not naturally and create life.
Exactly.
It's gonna bleed,
But you
you and cause you hepatitis B.
You did address it after Callie spoke to though.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is some kids now that are going for that community that are doing it not out of a genuine, and there's pockets of them too. Like you'll notice like friend groups of girls that will all of a sudden decide that they're now trans.
The idea of LGBTQ being trending and the idea of teaching kids that being gay is a choice, those are two very
So
different.
I'll answer that. Yes, I chose to be straight. Absolutely.
So
When
can
you tell us about it?
You
consider the
could
alternative?
be attracted to me if you wanted to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
And let me explain.
Look, you see how they tried to get me right there, right? But listen, I said, you know what? I'm not going to do what most black men would do. And that's be insecure in your masculinity and feel like you got to skate. No, I'm going to stand 10 toes down on my point. And I'm going to back it up with what I'm saying. So let's go further into what I'm saying.
So I'll answer that. Yes, I chose to be straight. Absolutely.
So
can you tell us about it?
You
consider the
you
alternative?
could be attracted to me if you wanted to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
And let me explain. I have seen transgendered people who I thought were born female that were very attractive. I didn't know. Now, once I find out that that's not what you are, I am choosing not to pursue that. That's what I mean. So yes, you can be attracted to someone that is of another gender.
Why is that so hard to understand?
It's not.
I have seen plenty of trannies out here that look prettier than real women.
Mm-hmm.
If you aren't man enough to admit that reality, then bro, miss me.
Right. And then I've seen butches that look like very handsome men.
Yeah, that this is like that is the goal.
Yeah.
That is the point of the reassignment surgeries. That is the point of the hormones, is to mimic the real thing.
That's what I'm saying. So what's difficult to understand about that?
It's not
It's difficult to say that it's a choice. You're not naturally. Never mind.
It's not that it's difficult to understand. It's a preconceived notion that because he's heterosexual, he automatically thinks one way. So they tried to get him with a gotcha. It was like there's no way he's going to say that he could be attracted to a male. And
Yeah,
sure as hell, he answered it, and then dog with the lipstick most definitely sat back like, oh shoot, okay.
Yeah. Like, okay.
He said, got it.
Like, bro, you're sitting up here literally looking like a woman. You have lipstick on, you're talking more feminine than everybody on the panel. If you put on a wig and grew some boobs, you could go out here and fool some people.
That's a fact, bro. He could pass for Jada, for sure.
Yes.
With pretty hair.
I'm done.
And so it's just like, why do we gotta act idiotic about basic logic to try to make points? And when they edited out the video that y'all won't see is when I said yes to that question, the transgender in the front row looked at me and said, oh, well, you're bi then. And they all started giggling. Of course, now they had to edit that out. And you know why? Because if they leave that in, that means that this liberal group is gay shaming me. Because if I am bi, why is that a joke? Why is that a giggle matter? Is that tolerant of you to laugh at me for being bi? So they edited that out, of course, because that don't fit the agenda.
I gotta give you your props though, bro. That was genius level right there, bro. You threaded the needle right there, bro.
I'm on the line with that one.
Yeah. When I watched it earlier, bro, I got up and walked away. I was like, oh, hey. I was like, this. And it's crazy that you say that you were unqualified for this thing when you weave through it so wonderfully, bro. Like you weave through it on a genius level.
Wow. That's the grace of God. I can't take that credit. GB said 100% facts. Desires don't make you, your actions does. It's a choice. Celibacy is real. Exactly. This is another point that I had to make in the comments to somebody. I'm like, okay, Lakia says she got a dip. I don't know if she want to say some final thoughts. But yeah, real quick, I have made this point in the comments section that, hey, because people are like, I can't help how I feel. I feel this way. If I could like women, I say, hey. I didn't say a single statement about feelings or attraction. I'm talking about sexuality. You can be attracted to an animal. There's people out here that like animal pornography.
Yeah.
That exist.
Mm-hmm.
You can be attracted to a lot of things. The point is what you do. Absolutely. I said it's so hard to understand because they get mad at me about the molestation thing. Is this so hard to understand that if a little boy at the tender age of 3 to 6 years old gets violated by an adult man, he is possibly going to have confusion about his sexual identity when he grows up? Because he's going to struggle with the reality. We talked about this on a little podcast channel recently. He's going to deal with the reality that I may have accidentally liked it and didn't know why. Does that make me gay? I'm not a man. I'm telling you, these are real thoughts that people deal with and need therapy for. I couldn't fight it off. I'm too weak. I let it happen. These are the thoughts that a child will battle in that. And even as an adult male, we talk about prison rape or grape. I couldn't imagine being in prison and being violated in that way and having to come home and face my wife as the masculine leader of the house. That's hard. So imagine if you're a 3 to 6 year old child. And then when you grow up, you can't tell anybody this happened to me because your friends will laugh at you and call you gay. So the best thing some people might feel to do is to accept it. And from what I hear, there is some kind of anatomical way to find pleasure from that form of sex. Has anybody else heard that?
Yes, I've heard that you
Well, you can actually even
come.
orgasm
Yeah.
from anal penetration.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I don't know how true. I don't know exactly how true it is, but I mean,
That's a fact.
for lack of a better word, they say men have a G spot back there. Don't know how true it is though.
So let's
I
say
don't know that a G spot is necessarily even a real thing, but I know that it's pleasurable.
Okay. So
So
let's say
I see that being the same for just a female and male.
well when it comes to the anus, females and males are anatomically the same.
Exactly.
So if it's pleasurable for a woman, even possibly, it could be pleasurable for a man.
Smitty.
So this is the difficulty we gotta face with a child. If you 8 years
Phil, reel
old,
it back in, Phil. Reel it in.
if you
Smitty
8 years
going.
old, if you're 8 years old and you get violated in that way, and you shaking and trembling, gripping the sheets,
All right.
enjoying it, that's a conflict.
Why'd you have to say gripping the sheet?
You know, like he gotta be extra and then try to keep a straight face. Come on now.
I'm just saying that's a conflict, though. That's a conflict. All jokes aside, like that I can see where that would make someone
Very confused.
really grow up struggling with their manhood.
Yeah.
And they're acting like I'm so crazy for this idea, but I know this to be.
I'm not acting like you crazy at all. I just feel like your vivid portrayal of such a thing is a little humorous.
Brutal honesty.
Mel saying yes, it is possible. So listen.
G spot is not real. It's not a scientific thing. There's no scientific evidence-based practice for a G spot. It's not.
Mel just brought
I
something.
don't have to think about how men feel to get a prostate examined. I've been examined, so I know.
You've had your prostate examined?
I don't have a prostate, but I've been examined, is what I said. So I feel like I know. Huh?
I'm about to say we got to get you on the panel.
You got a prostate?
No.
Oh, I forgot you got to go though, Lakia. Did you want to give your
I
final?
didn't have to go. I never said that.
Wait, who was that?
Kale.
That was Kale, bro.
I'm tripping.
He already left.
I'm trying to dismiss you because you said you got a prostate.
I never said it. Whatever. Stop. Are you see now? We was about to. All right, never mind. I'm not even gonna say it.
Let's get back to it.
Yeah, please do.
Let's get back to business.
Let's talk about what do you think should be taught about gender identity in school? What do you think is being taught?
I want to go back to something you were saying earlier that's related to this about like you're seeing trends, and I am too, right? Last semester when I was teaching, I had a trans kid in every classroom, and I was like, whoa, when I started teaching,
It was one in school.
there was none,
Yeah,
right?
one
And
in
I'm
the
like,
school,
this
yeah.
is wow.
And they
okay?
were really for it too.
And
they like went for it.
And I'm hearing you that is something I'm seeing too in the classrooms. Fair. Okay. Now, I'm not going to presume to be in the heads of those kids and to understand like what's real for them or whatever, but I will tell you this, historically speaking, a disproportionate number of kids who are gay, who are trans, who are any of the LGBTQI, fill in the letters, right? Didn't live to see adulthood. Maybe that's why we don't have an older generation of trans adults, because
I attended a funeral of a trans student last month.
Does this not further?
That most of the people.
Huh?
Huh?
I couldn't hear you.
Is she implying?
He's breaking up.
Y'all can't hear me?
Now we can.
No.
Yeah, but the video was playing weird.
One check. You know?
I can hear you, but it's like going in and out.
Okay. Was the video doing that too?
Not on my end.
For a second on mine.
Okay. So what I was saying is she implying that all of the historical transgenders of past were killed off?
Yes.
I thought she was implying that they deleted themselves, which further
even better proof of why we shouldn't be normalizing it. Why should we
that's harsh.
Why should we normalize to children a lifestyle?
I didn't say we should.
Okay, but I'm responding to her point. Why should we normalize to children a lifestyle that has led so many to killing themselves, though?
Yeah, because I mean, if she was pointing towards homicide, the suicide rate outweighs that, bar none.
Yeah, if you're deleting yourself because of this lifestyle, I think as a parent, that's more reason why I should say, hey, you probably really should protect your kids from anything that's pointing them towards that lifestyle.
And this suicide numbers is like in the 40 percentile. That is high.
Yeah, I think it's the highest in society.
It's extremely high for you to only be 2% of this nation.
Wow, now that's deep.
Wow.
How do you guys talk to your kids about this topic?
I don't know if YouTube will like the way that I talk about it, so
that might be a backstage discussion.
Yeah, for sure.
She's telling what they don't want you to hear about the suicide rate of those who regret the trans choice made by force in your face. All right.
Them didn't make it. And so when I hear about kids like feeling comfortable enough to try expressing something where maybe they wouldn't be able to do in other spaces. And I understand that maybe that's not what you want for your kids, but I'm thinking about the most marginalized and vulnerable people. And unfortunately, statistically, for our queer youth, disproportionately, they fall in that category.
Mind you, with the whole concept of school choice, I'm all for parents who agree with what you're teaching, sending their children to you. I just think ultimately it should be within the parent to make that choice.
What do you think should be taught in sex ed?
I think it should be health education, yes. I taught middle school and high school, and they started giving it to my students in 7th grade, and I have students come back to me traumatized.
All right. just asking, do you guys, like, if you were to public school, if you were to put your kids in public school, would you want them to be taught sex ed? Because that's something I would most definitely opt out of.
Nope. I'm teaching them sex ed if they were in school. I realized I had to do that at a young age when we were in Philly, because they're getting taught by the students and their peers as well. So it's best that the parents do it. I believe.
All right, with you on that.
Because I think sex ed has gone away from what it was. There are some lessons, like, for example, they have a lesson where the kids in 3rd grade in the New Jersey curriculum, there's a picture of a woman's spread eagle, and they're learning all the different body parts of the clitoris and the stuff. Every child is different. Some are not developmentally ready for this or mature enough for it.
I grew up with abstinence education.
That's pretty rough.
Where we didn't talk about sex ed until middle school, but mostly 10th grade and high school. But I think that middle school is far too late to be talking about sex ed. And it's not because I think that 2nd graders are, wanting to be promiscuous, but like having sex ed scaffolded, because it is a preventative measure against sexual assault, often being done in the home.
Just because that happens in the home doesn't mean that we need to label all parents as not capable of teaching sex to their children and giving it to teachers.
But teachers, for a lot of children, are the only trusted adults, and it is incredibly dangerous to remove teachers who are trained professionals to deal with these crises in the home from the situation. And that's just like a funnel for child abuse.
I think she genuinely believes what she's saying, but that's wildly dangerous rhetoric. What you got to say, Smitty? You look like you got a lot on your mind.
I don't want somebody that I don't hold daily conversation with teaching my kids anything sexual. I don't think that should be in school at all. That I mean, just even given the panel there, I mean, that could be, like the parents. You could use that panel as parents for other people who deal with this situation or whatever. And if a person is gay, it's like, it's cool. You can be gay. I don't think anybody has a problem with gay people. It's just you over-sexualizing everything publicly.
Right. I think you on the money for me too.
And I don't want my kids learning in a room full of other kids about sex.
Right.
Like, you don't think these kids gonna look at each other and get ideas while they're being taught that crap, bro?
Thank you. That's the point right there. I think I've even seen something where there was a study showing that since they implemented sex ed, sex has only increased in those age groups because you're bringing that into their world, versus beforehand where it was like taboo to kids to have sex. Now they having sex in middle school. This is becoming a normalized thing. And I remember I did sex ed in 5th grade. By the time 6th grade came, I'm like, okay, can't wait for my first chance to roll that condom thing down they showed us. You know what I mean? Like you can't wait for the chance now once after sex ed. So I think you on to something there that I never really thought about for the longest, but I'm seeing that correlation where it doesn't seem like the kids are getting any better with the education.
Right.
Go ahead.
And what's the point of having pictures of a vagina and teaching little boys about the function and what part is which part? Why do they need to know that?
Exactly.
Like, how is that helping them in life?
I do like her point about protecting them from abuse in the home, because we do know most sexual abuse happens in the home. But there's casualties to war. That doesn't mean that you get to indoctrinate my kid. I'm sorry. That just means that they, that's the result of not having a dad in the house. Sometimes it's unfortunate. And I'm not going to entertain the idea that it's usually a father molesting their own kids, because that's just not the reality. It happens, but it's not largely a norm. So point blank period, teach your own kids. Yes, I do advocate, like Mel said, for some level of sex ed in the home as early as possible, to make sure your kids anatomically correctly know how to identify their parts and what should or shouldn't be happening to them. Great. But the way that it's done in the school system, I'm with y'all on that.
They don't teach sex ed. They teach sexual perversion, how to have sex and not get pregnant, birth control. The purpose of sex is to have children. If you can't understand this, you are indoctrinated.
Exactly.
That's a fact. Yeah.
They teach you every way to have sex without the accountability of the childbearing. And I don't know if that's necessarily been healthy for society.
I think a huge thing that's missing in education in the schools when it comes to sex ed is consent.
Yeah.
That's not being taught at all, to my understanding. I never learned it in the schools. And that creates consequences when you look at the situations that are going on here.
I think that we have such a hypersexualized society. Obviously, kids are having sex younger. They're hooking up younger. It's just a reality. I would rather those individuals, and also from a pro-life perspective, know how to have safe sex and preventative sex that prevents pregnancies than them to just go around willy-nilly just doing whatever they want.
So there's a lot of middle schoolers in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that are getting pregnant at earlier ages. And we're starting to rank like the highest nationally in terms of middle school pregnancies. And that's because a lot of middle schoolers are, again, like you said, like getting sexually involved earlier, whatever
It's the Cardi B music.
Whatever it is, it's happening, and we need to be able to address it. And students need to be able to be equipped with the skills to understand how to have safe sex. If parents aren't having those conversations at home and middle schoolers are getting pregnant anyways, like why can we not include that in the school so they have some form of information?
Again, it just goes back to the fact that so many of this issue is just not black and white. It really is 50 shades of gray, because like there is just no one size fits all approach to the way we educate our children.
What age?
Bro, they on his neck about that Cardi B music.
Bro, I didn't hear it at first, bro. The first time I watched it, I was wondering what they was talking about, and I just heard him say it. Like, yo.
I'm like, why are we acting like there's no merit to that, though? I mean, obviously, it ain't just Cardi B, but
that's a fact, bro.
Like, come on. We know our music is horrible nowadays.
Do you think sex ed should be taught in schools? Like starting at what age?
Probably at some point during secondary school, because if we're talking about it scientifically, kids need to understand that science is a body of knowledge that we're building together. This is what we currently understand about human anatomy.
As far as like actually getting into intercourse and the details of all of that, in my experience, I usually at least start giving that understanding around 7, 8 years old.
I think that sex ed is a lifelong discussion, and it starts, as soon as you
They edited the heck out of what I said, by the way.
communicate. Now, that doesn't mean that you are giving a high schooler's curriculum to a 3-year-old, but I'm already talking about consent and using proper anatomical language with my children, and that's where it begins and it ends in adulthood.
I think
so. That's basically what I said. I don't know why they allowed her to take it from me, but yeah, I had said that at around the age of 2 or 3 is when I start to teach them their body parts and things like that. But in regards to actual intercourse, that's something that around 7, 8 years old, and that's for the main sake of them understanding and knowing what it is. So, because I was frightened to find out, they interviewed abusers in prisons, and they were telling how they pick their victims and things like that. And if they're ignorant to what sex is, that's a good target, because they can sit them on their lap and say it's a game, and the kids don't even know what's happening to them or think to say anything else, because this adult I trusted said this was a fun game.
as long as it happens in a way such that, to the point you were making, that like kids are being protected, that's what I would say we prioritize.
I would say go back to the way it was when I was in elementary school. They separated the boys and the girls, and the girls watched a video about their period and all these things. The guys
That's health.
watched another video. Yeah, it was health class.
Mhm.
And then we didn't talk about sex education, the actual contraception, all of those things until high school.
I think we need to separate health education from sex education. Health education should be lifelong. No sex ed for now, the way it's being taught in a lot of these states.
Let's talk a little bit about other things that fall under the responsibility of what teachers do in the classrooms. What is CRT?
Okay, before we get into that one, this is starting to get a little long. We lost Lakia. I'm probably going to save the next half for another time and do a part 2. But I did want to give the opportunity for some closing thoughts. I don't know if Mel still wanted to come on, but I might drop the link briefly, give him that opportunity if he wanted to say something, or if anybody else wanted to join. Because once they get into the CRT, it takes a whole nother route, and I think that's where we can have a whole nother level of conversation there. GB said the idea of having sex and preventing the natural result, pregnancy of it, is foolish. It reduces sex to pleasure, and if sex is just pleasure, all things pleasurable is permitted. Dang, GB been dropping some bombs. Wow. That's a heck of a way to think about that.
That's a fact. I ain't having no more kids, so that's all it is for me now.
That's a dangerous thing for a kid, though.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Yeah. What's up, Sir Mel?
What's good? What's good?
Man, not too much, man. What's your thoughts so far?
Man, damn. Yo, did a good job, brother. Did a good job up there, man.
Get it?
Oh, man. Like, it's crazy. Like, I'm like, it's especially from the dudes like Joker and Elliot Page. If you know what I'm referring to him, like, I'm like, yo.
It was hard to really realize like how lost society is, because they were like, the faces they were making and my ideas, it blows my mind to watch it back. Like, it's like they were shocked to ever be hearing this.
Not, they don't want to play it because they know what happened and stuff. That's why they edit that out. Like when the Elliot Page chick dude, Lady Boy with I'm sorry. When he was
go ahead.
He was mentioning oh damn. it was mentioning, yeah, it's gonna be it was mentioning about the suicide rate. Yeah, because here's the big thing about it. They don't discuss the suicide rate for the reverse transgender phobia when they want to now regret their choices because technically when they was young and kids, they forced them to go to psychiatrists that technically imprinted that in their brains. Maybe a kid might just dress like that as a joke, and they thought it was serious, so they enforced that. They force feed them hormone blockers to these young kids like crazy and stuff like that until actually they make a decision, but then they make a lifelong decision and regret about it. Then they gotta retransform themselves back to what they really want to be because they realize I didn't really want to do this. I was forced to it, man. They didn't want to discuss that. And that's why the suicide rate is so high and everything. The way it is in that community with that. Like, yo, they don't want to discuss that. You know, there's like I think it's a month or a day that is for trans reverse dysphoria, what would they call it? Yeah.
Word.
People don't want to go back to their original gender that they born as, like they regret it, but they don't want to promote that so hard and everything. Yeah, they don't want to discuss that. They know and stuff. That the actual real truth is like, yo, this is not natural and stuff. You got mothers out there that actually turn their boys into girls on purpose.
Yeah.
And stuff. It's sad.
Well, when you look at it, bro, and they actually kind of tried to change the definition of it, but it's called gender dysphoria. That's what it was called for forever. So it's like they took a disease and they're like, well, let's make this disease okay to everybody because it's
exactly. So it's like,
but then when you perpetuate when you put that out to everybody, it's like, yo, a curious person, if their proclivity is to be curious and they have no clue about sexuality, and then that's what's being pushed, like that's the popular thing right now. It's like you can't turn on a TV show without seeing any of that. Like,
exactly.
So it's like they're like, all right, well, I could try it out. And then when they try it out, then they're like, well, I want to look like a girl. I gotta get breasts. I want to get this cut off. I want to do this. And then when certain shit is done, you can't reverse it. Right. And I think the parents who opt for get their kids getting these surgeries, bro, they need to be psychologically evaluated, bro. If you're a parent opting for that, bro, that's sick.
It's almost like they forcing their kid. Like, you ever seen a scene from this old Stanley Kubrick movie called Clockwork Orange, where they fought when Alice got forced to be reprogrammed from his his violent rapist ways. And they had that thing in his eye that they was forcing him to watch the screen to reprogram him and it, hinder his violent tendencies. There's technically in a way they sort of doing that to the kids like that and stuff. Technically for mind reprogramming they nature and making it enforcing nurture on them and stuff. And it's sad. It's like it's crazy.
Yeah,
but I'm glad you got him with the choice thing and everything. I was like, yo, exactly, because I know what he was trying to do. And the funny thing about it, if I was on that panel, I'm like, yo, yeah, I'm turned on by a woman because I choose to be. Why? Because my body reacts a certain way towards women that I like. So I choose to be heterosexual. You use their own talking points against them and stuff, and that's why they don't like it. Reverse it. It's like
I was willing to lose that battle to win the war.
Nah, you lost. You won both. You won the battle and the war. So it's go mind reverse fuckery on them. It's part of my friendship.
Man, it's unfortunate, man. I'm gonna have to do a part 2 because there's a whole nother half to this where we get into more and it might be a little bit more controversial, but it's crazy how hung up we got on the LGBT stuff when this panel's about education. You would have thought it was about the trans agenda. God dang, they got so stuck on that. Just the idea that me as a parent, wouldn't want my kid learning these gender ideologies at school. I just can't believe that's so insulting to people.
It goes to show you what new modern education is nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
It's indoctrination. It's teaching children about all these 72 genders and a bunch of confusion. That is what they believe a good education is.
I'm like, yo, I'll be damned if I had them tell me there's 72 genders. I'm looking at them like, oh, are you crazy? Man, get out my face. There's only 2 genders, that is it. You cannot convince me in the goddamn world there's all these multiple 100 genders. Hey, come on, man. This is sad. It's sickening. You know, at that time, and I mean, me being in New York at the time, they was trying to stop kids from calling mom and dad because of gender terms and stuff. That's how far we going with this. Like, yo, this is crazy. Like, yo, I'll be damned when I have my kids and they have teachers in their school telling my kids they cannot call me mom and dad in the school. I'll curse them teachers out in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I was watching this Michael Knowles interview or whatever, and the chick was like, "Pregnant people." He was like, "Pregnant people."
Oh man!
It was like, "You mean mothers? Pregnant people? Like what? What does that mean? Pregnant people?"
It's even getting far. You see on TikTok and everything how these dudes who that desperately want to be female talking about they got a period. Like it's sad. Like it's crazy. And they invite these same dudes to go read to their kids in school and everything. Like it's all cool. But yeah, they got a record of being a pedophile and everything, man. Like, yo, this is sad.
Have any of you guys, or the lady in the bottom, have you guys ever read the book Ender's Game?
No.
Okay. It's even a graphic novel, but essentially what the concept is that this government uses the children to push a narrative that's going to, make the government stronger. And that's kind of what I see happening, where it's like when people teach this to our children, what they're really doing is setting it up so it's normalized, so that when shit kind of gets weird in the future, we'll be grandparents and we'll be like completely like, no one's going to listen to us, because our children will then be parents, and then that generation will be the one that's going to be in this very strange cyberpunk mentality. And that's what the world is kind of being shaped for. And I don't think that people are really seeing the big picture. 50 years from now, what they want to do is have a whole lot of people being androgynous and not like, they want us to be having fornication or in love with porn or in love with the dildos for ladies or in love with all the electronic things that happen, in love and staying home, but not being out in nature, not really connecting one-on-one, not really having authentic mind conversations that are outside the box that could actually be good for humankind and the earth. What they really want is to make sure they always are in the know of what's going on. And that's what's going to be happening. Like, so our children will be the one that shame these conversations that you guys are having that make sense. It'll be your children that shame you for having this conversation in the future. And it'll be your children and grandchildren that'll tell you that you're just too old and you don't understand. And unless we do something about this now, that's going to be the path that we're in 50 years from now.
I mean, think about all these. Think about all your dystopian movies that we grew up watching and stuff like that from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Oh, now most of them gonna start wanting to becoming true. Like crazy.
They already are. Even
Exactly.
the train derailment that happened in Ohio. That can, I mean, it's there are no coincidences. That comes from like a movie called, I think, White Noise, where in all the UFO sightings, it's all a distraction. And because they know that, especially us as Black people, our God is entertainment. Our God is, the things that are happening on television. Like that's replaced our foundation of any kind of spirituality, whether you want to be Buddhist or whether you want to be Muslim or whether Christian. It doesn't matter. What really is the God is what people appease and try to strive to like obtain. Even if you see people having like, I'm gonna put you on, you gonna go viral. Like when it's like a Karen situation, like they're calling to their God. Like, oh God, make sure they go viral to protect me. Oh, this person is doing me wrong. I'm gonna make you go viral. It's a prayer to their God to like, please make this person go viral so they get some kind of consequence. I'm gonna get my justice through the internet instead of through alchemy.
You remember the movie Viva Vendetta? Also, if you don't believe what the government believes, they come send the fingermen after you and you disappear and stuff. That's probably what's happening now with the cancel culture type. You don't believe what they believe, they'll cancel you out. Almost to the fact that you disappear and stuff.
But the main thing I really wanted to say was about the gentleman who's homeschooling. God, we have to normalize this, and as women are all, especially Black women who are enrolling in the education and really getting into schools, like what would happen if all these women who took all these what if they all went into education so that they could actually come back to where they're from and start building real homeschooling situations in schools? And I've seen it done on reservations where it's like people, like 5 women who have a family, and one woman takes one day, one woman takes the next, one father takes. Like, it could easily be done if that was our priority. And I don't think that as Black people, we really want to pull away and pull our kids out of public schools, even though we've all been traumatized from it. Like, even the Black experience for your Black kids being surrounded by a lot of other Black kids in a Black school, it's going to be traumatic because our culture is traumatic. And the only way to really shield your children from that is to start homeschooling them and prepare them for what they're going to deal with as adults. And I think that that's the smartest thing to do, is to be homeschooling with your own tribe versus putting your kids in a public school where they're getting indoctrinated. And even going into college, I wouldn't put my kids into college.
Me neither.
Like, there's so many other ways to really learn how to better yourself and be a productive, universal man or woman that doesn't involve getting involved with the college education or even the government at all.
Right.
You know, about homeschooling kids for women and everything, it will actually expose how many percentage of our Black women actually enjoy having kids and being a mother and stuff. Because you know they get kids around them 24/7 like that. You know, homeschooling them, and that's kind of actually exposed a percentage of Black women don't really like their kids the way we think they do.
But it also makes them accountable for how their kids turn out. It takes away the excuse of, oh, well, my kid learned this in school, so it's not my fault, or my kid turned out this way, but you know they learn different from friends. No, when you have homeschooling and your kid turns out to be a ain't shit spoiled ass person, that's reflected on you as the teacher. And I think that a lot of men and women are afraid to take that type of responsibility. They rather
my
pass it
wife
on
was
to big daddy government.
My wife was homeschooled, and it's just wild because the dedication that was passed on to her was passed on to my children. So
it was passed on to you, probably.
That's a fact. I learned a lot.
There's some things that you learned.
Yeah, I learned a lot from my wife. That's a fact, bro. That's a fact. I'm pro homeschooling. You know what I mean?
What is the biggest pushback you get from other women and men about homeschooling? What are they like? All I hear is like, well, the kids need to socialize. I'm like, yeah, my kids socialize with who I choose they socialize with.
There you go.
Like that. My kids are very social kids.
That's honestly. I think the next one would be that we aren't adequate enough to educate them. Those are the main two.
And they can't afford it.
No,
who should be educating then when they ask that? Because we all know teachers, let's be 100.
Yeah,
I think most of us had maybe 1 or 2, if you're lucky, 3 good teachers, let alone a great one.
Yeah,
you know?
I have one.
So if that's the pushback, well, like, who educated these people who are going to be the teachers? These, because they were taught by white supremacy, plain and simple. And so if you want to pull away from what white supremacy teaches, you kind of have to pull away from the people who have been educated by that. And that's why I think that we have to have women who go into, I don't even think women have to go to college to be teachers. I really don't. I think that if you love your child, then you'll probably be that child's greatest teacher because you have investment in that child and how it turns out. Whereas most teachers don't truly care how a child turns out. So they do the curriculum, but they don't really care. When you have a teacher that truly cares about you, oh my God, that changes your life. Now imagine if that's your parent, imagine if that's your uncle, imagine if that's your grandmother, imagine if that's imagine if that's a family member who are your teachers. Again, that's going to do nothing but strengthen the Black family in America. Because I promise, I've seen it even here in Germany. The idea of Black families does not exist. It exists here because, families are pretty much still together. But in America, like if you have a problem, can you call your family member to hold you down for a year so you can build yourself back up? Can you call a family can you do a GoFundMe so that me and my family can figure this shit out and we can just evolve? And we don't have that kind of structure in America, but we do in other places.
That's a good point. GB has something for you. What the fuck? Said that is such a wish and hopeful thinking. Black women and women in general aren't going to school to help others, children included. They go to say they are better and deserve more. So I think that kind of does kind of correlate with your point, though, that the priority has to be correct. And that seems to be the biggest issue, is that we don't see the value in homeschooling.
That's
That's
what
what
I
I
mentioned earlier about,
yeah.
if we did with our black women, it kind of will expose how many percentage of black women actually like their kids and stuff. 'Cause
I'll say what
they may
percentage of
have
women.
them, but
What
do they
percentage of
generally
women?
like them?
What percentage of women even like their kids today?
Yeah, exactly. Some
Women
kids
today
probably
don't want to be
using,
mothers.
some women have kids out of necessity or something like that. Ends up, and I've seen some
Women
bad
today don't
parents and
want
a
to be
lot of mothers out there like crazy. It's like, why you have this kid and stuff like that. But she'll act like she love him, but it's more like she do more abuse towards him and stuff, him or her and everything. So it's like, it
He's
got me
right.
questioning. Do you actually like your kid, enjoy your kid and everything, or you just had them out of necessity and stuff because you always seem miserable, like you want to put blame on this kid all the time. Yeah.
It's the only solution that I really see that's a positive. Like, if we really want to tackle what's wrong with our community, I honestly believe it starts with us having to homeschool our own children. And yet, when you bring it up to women who are so about like education, it's like, okay, well then you do that educating. Well, no, I have to work, and it's like men would be so happy to marry, and I mean, and this is someone who doesn't even believe in marriage, but if men knew that I can make $60,000 a year and I have a woman who's going to educate my children and I'll be educating my children
Talk
and she
about
will be happy with that because that's what's valuable, then men would be going to the altars like every single day marrying these women. The problem is that women don't value or want that anymore. They want more necessity, they want more desire, they want more wants, and those things are it's an endless rat race. And when you don't provide that, then as a punishment you're going to lose your fatherhood, you're going to lose access to your children, and you're going to and some other man might come in and take your place. And so men have been seeing that for the last 50 years, so they're terrified to really put their faith and autonomy in a woman because women in general have not handled that type of responsibility very well.
Yeah, we are a long way from the past, like American dream. The American dream wasn't for you to become like a billionaire or a millionaire or anything of that nature. It was pretty much to own a home and to have a home to raise your children in.
That's it.
That was it.
You lived in that one home that your whole life, and your kids raised their family in it after you did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all that changed when the industrial industry got wiped out. We all know how that happened and stuff, and that's when definitely the American dream changed. Back in those days, people could actually afford houses. I mean, them houses supposed to been paid off like 10 years after you buy them and stuff like that. Yeah, and then living in until you build those certain amount to pass on to your kids. The kids wanted to sell it. They have enough money to take that and buy their own houses and flip it, keep the generational wealth. But we was not even talk about financial education also too, as I mentioned, and everything. J. Edgar Hoover changed the whole school systems behind that, so he could turn people into mindless slaves for people to work with, for them to work for him, so he could become more richer and stuff. No more,
Yeah, GB said most women don't want to be mothers anymore. They want life selfish. They want luxury lifestyle and to be spoiled. They're pleasure oriented and void of purpose. I cannot see a lie, man.
Yep.
That is Western culture, at least.
I think that's capitalistic culture. Yeah, I think that's a capitalistic culture.
You ever hear women always talking about? They always say they the most educated. I always say this: most educated doesn't equal most intelligent. Women could be all educated in liberal arts so much that doesn't equate to nothing in actual reality. So it's like, and to most of the time, she could probably just repeat what the professor says to her and everything. But can she add something new from what she learned? She take what she learned and add something new to it and everything? No.
Yeah, they'll have a master's in gender study, talking about how educated they are.
Mm-hmm. And
I
they
mean,
mostly
I guess
talking
that's
in these
true.
feelings.
Our women are they're the most speaking about being healed and going through healing, but never heal. It's like
they always talk about in their feelings instead of bringing fat based subjects and stuff.
But in the same token, the men I mean, let's put some onus on the men as well, because we've had horrible men teachers. There's not there's not many examples of a man that's like, hey, this is how you make it with in a real, like, there's no music for that. There's no rap song. There's no rapper talking about like, this is how I make it with my relationship. And like we don't have any examples of real alchemy of men where they're like, look, this is what it is to provide and really build your children up. Just like this man's doing here that was on Vice. it's so outside the box, and yet it should be the norm. It
Right.
should what you are, sir, is what many of us should be doing and striving for. But you're a complete autonomy, which is to show you like this is the weird matrix of the reality that we're in. Because the things that you do when things that you do make logical sense and they're ostracized, that's how you know, like, yo, this world's in a completely different place.
We
Yeah,
upside
they,
down.
they out there. They're just not in large numbers, and just like you said, they ostracized. They probably got a lot of, yeah, I will say a lot of young crowd challenging the old crowd to actually know this stuff and saying that you ain't this, that, and other. Why did I take advice from you? Look at your wife and everything. They see, like
It's going to be the same way that we treat. It's going to be the same way that we look at our grandparents. Remember how we looked at our grandparents? Like, oh, you guys just don't understand. You guys are old, and they got. Or you think about your great grandparents. Even like we looked at them like they were so ancient. That's how they're going to be looking at us. And as we're saying these things that make logical sense because they've been indoctrinated for at least probably 2 generations, and it's coming. When we're grandparents, this world's going to be so idiotic we won't even recognize it.
Actually, we're grandparents now. We just generation grandparents now because if we realize, yo, I mean, I'm 42 years old.
I'm 41. You a grandparent, sir?
No, I mean not exactly, but I'm saying like this generation. Me and you, like Gen Xers, early millennials.
I gotta
We're
catch up.
We're this generation grandparents. If you think about it, because most majority, think about a lot of the girls we went back in school with in high school. They had kids already before they graduated out of high school, and probably by now, their kids already had kids. And they ain't even reached 40 years old yet. Mid-30s already a grandparent.
I had a date with a grandma 2 weeks ago who was my age, and I was just like,
exactly. Think about when we was kids. My grandmother was 50, like late 50s or early 60s when she was a grandmother when I was born. Around knowledge of when I was born, stuff like that. But now it's like, yo, they made a thing like it's so cool to be a younger grandmother now. It's like, no. Like
yeah. In our community, when you come home from jail at 18, it's a celebration. Or if you get pregnant at 18, it's a celebration.
Talk. Exactly.
Talk.
It's a celebration.
But that's another issue with the funk is that I love what you painted out. That today's women, if they valued family, being a mother, and they could just find that guy, and raise his children, homeschool them, live on that 60K basic income and just make it work, that would be amazing. But there's also the caveat that today's men don't even want that oftentimes. They are saying, I don't want to live off 60K. She needs to go to work. They don't want her to homeschool. There are wives that are catching problems with.
Yeah, they are some in that. They tell you have an unrealistic view of certain marriage dynamics and everything, like especially when it comes to money making and stuff like that. Yes. And they want to be this boss dude.
Yeah,
but there's a cost to pay for that also too. And a lot of dudes got a misunderstanding of that. Like okay, if your wife was a stay-at-home wife and everything, you think she's gonna be lazy all the time after she finished cooking and cleaning and school your kids and everything? She still have a large percentage of the day and everything to do. I think she could think of an in-home small business.
Right.
Yeah.
There's your income right there, and she's home and stuff.
Exactly. That's what my wife.
Hey, she works for you.
Yeah.
If you're the breadwinner, you got the business. She works for you. Like,
always, or if a woman's willing to move to a poor area for you, so you can set up your family and get real land and get a real house. Exactly. Like if you say, okay, I'm going to marry you, but we have to move to Arkansas.
Yeah.
Where we can because if you have a problem, if you want to have more, and I'm making 60,000 a year, we're going to have a problem if I'm making that in a city. But if I go to the country and I'm making that, we're living it up. And I think I think we're so afraid to get away from the city. And I think women are so afraid of leaving like their family to start a new one. They always kind of monkey branch it. They want to start their family with their family around, which I get in concept. Yes. But I honestly think that it would be smarter when you start a family to get away from what both of you.
I agree.
And start brand new.
But that would be the issue that I believe men have with the women now, because a lot of what Kevin Samuels would say, modern women, they don't value any of those things. They won't sit back and make the sacrifices to be like, you know what? I'll have less so that way my kids can have more.
Not even just ask, do you value an average man? Because in our community, we don't value average men, and that's the problem. Even the average men have to fake being ballerific and even
They
go
don't
into
value
debt
the
just to
10%.
look like they're that. But just to be average is a problem in our community.
They don't value the 10% because if you're making six figures, they're like, oh no, I'm too beautiful for that. You got to at least make $1 million. And that's like what, 1% of the country? Like, what the hell? Good luck.
See, this is
It's like,
why I didn't
I'll
know.
say this last part again. As an average man, you're not average. You beat the system of white supremacy because the chessboard was for you were supposed to be in jail. You were supposed to be dead. You're supposed to be having a bunch of kids and making mistakes. But if you're an average man making $40,000 a year and you found your purpose, you're not average. You beat the system. So how horrible is it that it'll be your own woman that puts you right back in the system and has you in all kind of court cases, all types of child support cases, all types of where it's like you finally beat the game and it's what looks like you that puts you right back in the prison of it. I think that's what happened to a lot of men in this space, and that's why all these men are kind of angry because they haven't seen the value that women truly provide when you meet the right one who can really who understands that muse energy, who understands how to pour into a man correctly, how to motivate a man to really try to take on the world and come home to a happy place. Women haven't seen how valuable it is to pour that type of energy into a man. And men haven't seen women doing it. So that's why we have this divide where we both think that both sides are not valuable.
Well, this is one thing I try to tell some men. You got to understand your masculine identity, period. And as much we got the man that might be working hard and everything. He might not be in his masculine identity. He might not be in his masculine frame either, too. I mean, he feels like he's making all this money and everything, but he might be getting treated as a mark and stuff. Money alone is not going to get you the respect that you think you are from females and stuff like that. It's technically more than that.
It'll just get you the access, but not the respect.
Yeah, that's a character thing. I mean,
Yeah, there's a some characteristics that some men, I mean, even saying in this space, do not know. Some do not know, or they don't even put in the work to know and everything. They just spend all day thinking they can shame a woman that don't want them so much. And I'm like, that's not gonna work all the time, man. That's not even work on period. Like, I mean, this is why I tell some dudes why you kind of fail with some females the way you do, because you know what? You're busy trying to attack a woman that don't want you, and you got to carry yourself like a politician or a celebrity and stuff like that. You're making yourself easy access to these females that not even worthy of your time and stuff.
Yeah. So why argue with women who you already know that you don't value or want? And that's the one thing that I always see
Exactly.
in this space where it's like, do you think you're going to convince these women through these arguments? Do you think that you had the argument, the woman got off the phone and like, oh, and then she changed her life? No. So
Exactly.
why even get so why even put your energy into this YouTube atmosphere and that's what I see even on Instagram where it's like just people are arguing these points. And it's like, it makes sense to have the conversation. Let's conversate and let's try to get to a solution. So maybe you can put it into your practices as a parent. So you can put it into your practices as a family member. But when it's nothing but arguments and arguments and arguments, and we're entertained by that, it's pitiful.
Yeah, and the wild thing is most women want monogamous relationships, and then when they dive into these relationships with dudes who have options or whatever, the men with options don't have to behave like they're in a monogamous relationship. So they keep chasing these things, but what they really want, they want an average guy who makes millionaire money.
Yeah. I always say women want to do that Dragon Ball Z fusion with like a bunch. They want to take like 7 different men and like fuse them all together into one metamorphosis Superman that does not exist.
Exactly.
And I think Neely Fuller speaks about it, especially in this system of white supremacy. You're not going to have the ideal relationship that you think that you should have and own. What you need to do is be realistic and find someone who you can pretty much minimize with and get along with. And if you can do that, you have done better than most rich people who are married. In the system of white supremacy, we are at war. So you need to just find a system and find a woman who you minimize conflict with. You're going to have issues, yes. But if you can articulate with this woman and she can articulate with you and you can figure it out, that's all it has to be. It really is. Like if you guys can be on the same page and not be killing each other, then that's all it has to be. And I think men and women, we're wanting so much more that's not necessary. We want her to be
exactly.
we
I
want her to
heard
be this. We want her to be that. We want her to also have this kind of. But we also want to maybe have some on the side. We want her to maybe. We're asking for too much. We have to completely break it down to what it is that I want to grow old with. What do I want to be 80 years old with? What woman do I want to see if I pass away and I die and I see my wife in heaven? Am I asking the angel, am I in heaven or in hell? Like some men will be like imagine if you died and you go there, the dates, and they open the gate and it's 100 versions of your wife. Do you walk in that gate?
Right.
If not, you probably, but if yes, then that's the one.
Yeah, I advocate for that idea. I mean, when I talk to people about my relationship or whatever, and them trying to get into a relationship, I'm like, bro, it's not about how much you have in common. It's about how much you can overcome together. That's the solidifying factor in a relationship. It's
And
like
squats save relationships.
It's like when
I hate to turn it
I've
there,
seen
but
a lot of people.
if a woman has a nice backside, no
you
matter
gotta do
how
squats,
mad
baby.
you get at her, you will be like, you know what? I'm gonna love you later.
There you go.
So yeah, squats.
I've seen this quite a bit. Like people will be in a relationship for say like 7 to 8 months to like a year, and they haven't gotten into an argument. It's just been all sunshine and butterflies. And soon as an argument pops up, oh, they was like, oh, I didn't know this side of you existed. I didn't even know you were this type of person. And then it's hard to forgive because then you felt like somebody was wearing a mask the whole time you were talking to them.
That's what my pawpaw said. Before you marry a woman, you take a road trip with her for like 2 or 3 weeks with a real map, no GPS, and she has to delegate which way you turn. And she guides you and you're driving. And he says that dynamic that you see in those 2 weeks, like when you go to the hotel and she's all pissed off because that's gonna be your marriage. Now she can guide you with the map and delegate, and you're joking and having a good time on the road trip. That's wifey. But if it's an argument and you did something wrong, and he said walk away completely. The road trip idea has worked I think it's the tried and tried solution to find out that's the woman you really want to spend the rest of your life with.
Well, exactly. I also say this another situation too. I tell some dudes, if you out on a date with a woman and you get stopped by the police, your job as a man is to make sure that woman you're with shuts the hell up. You tell her, you don't say nothing. Let me handle this with the police. We're gonna be calm, cool, and collected. Follow my lead. You know that stuff. Is she up there hollering blah, 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 with the police and everything? While you telling her to shut up and she screaming at you,
he told
do not deal with her.
shoot her, officer.
Exactly.
Don't shoot me.
She fails to follow your lead. And most of the time, men know how to diffuse a situation.
Officer, I'm complying. You can shoot this. I told her to be quiet, officer.
Exactly.
She don't listen.
Yo, you know, women instigate fights like crazy. So if she's one that's going to instigate a situation worse than what it is, then that's a woman you do not want to be with and stuff. Like, so it's like, man.
Yeah. Man, I don't know where the heck Driscoll went and Family Values went, but
it's all gravy. Y'all been on for 3 hours, so I'm pretty sure y'all about to wrap up anyway.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I always catch y'all at the end. Damn it.
But
I guess
I think gonna do part 2. I probably might be tomorrow or something like that. Yeah.
I'm gonna share the Vice thing, but is it better if I actually share this? Like, did you guys do a full reaction to that Vice show on this channel? Because if so, then I'll just send this to other content creators versus
both of their channels.
We did part 1, so we went halfway through it, and then on the next half they're going to start talking about CRT. So that'll be part 2.
I would love to invite some other content creators that I know maybe to your part 2 conversation. I'll figure it out in the back chat or maybe on Instagram, but let me know when you guys are maybe thinking about doing the part 2, and then I can have them watch the Vice show, and then we have a conversation about it.
Sounds good. And the Vice panel obviously is up. If anybody out there wants to see the whole thing, go ahead and check it out on Vice's YouTube channel. Not sure exactly when we're gonna do the part 2. But still, if you didn't catch the beginning, watch the playback. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll address it on the next one. With that said, man, let me get your final thoughts. Let me go ahead and start with my guy Mel.
Yeah, good show, man. Definitely, like I said, you held your composure on that show, man. Definitely, like I said, you ever seen them old pictures with Jay-Z? Me in the background with that series look, while Dame Dash and other artists all flossing, acting funny and stuff like that. And he in the background, like with this series look, like he thinking of something. Yeah, that was you, Draco. Yeah, definitely. And unfortunately, we see how Jay-Z turned out. Those who think in the background, focus and whatever, yes, want to become the most successful ones because they're doing it in silence. Definitely.
I'll take that.
Definitely, man.
You family, you all appreciate you coming through, man.
Definitely, man. Thank you for having me up. Good night, everyone. Definitely.
Yep, we're gonna let you know when the next one. What the fuck? What's up with you, bro?
My last word was I caught a little bit of the Vice show, and I wanted to give you your flowers for being able to keep a straight face while the person next to you was questioning you, because I was like, who is this person? Like I didn't know if it was a guy or a girl that had the. I was like, and I'm like, there ain't no way I could even. I was just like.
That's what everybody's been saying.
No. So great job keeping your composure and having a grown man conversation with that person. And I'm too much of a child in my head. I would have just been giggling every time he. Like, is that how you really talk? So you did great, sir. I'm proud of you. You did. I'm definitely about to watch the rest of it in a bit.
Word. Hey, man, appreciate you coming through, man. I'll catch you for round 2.
All right.
Pastor Heathen.
I really enjoyed being here, yo. I think you weaved your way through that conversation, as I said previously, like a genius, bro. I'm happy for you, bro. Most definitely use this opportunity to ride that wave, bro. And I'm here with you, everybody. If you got your kids in the public school, what's the name of that website?
ThinkExodus.org.
ThinkExodus.org, yo. Let's get some order in our homes, and let's teach our kids the right way.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you for having me on, and thank you for everybody who showed up.
Hey, and hang out in the back chat for a sec if you got time, please.
For sure, I got you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, man. Man, this has been fun. I can't wait to get to round 2. If anybody out there want to do a reaction to the Vice panel, if you want me to come on and talk about it and give my thoughts on your platform, I am open to do so. Just DM me at Driscoll757 on Instagram, or find my email that is on my about me on my YouTube channel. And let's talk about how we're gonna make that work, because I'm all in when it comes to this education. We got to protect these babies. We got to spread the word, and we got to let our people know that we got options, man. We don't have to put up with whatever the government say do. And that don't just go for school. That goes with a lot of stuff. We got to take our power back, but it starts with the babies. They the next generation. If we don't protect them, we're gonna lose our country. So that's it. Salute the GB. Say you were brave, courageous, and stood for truth. They'll be after people who are like this. Well done. Continue to be courageous. No coward into the kingdom. I like how you talk. At the end of the day, we got to stand on what we believe. Stop bowing to these agendas, especially my men out here. Man up. Don't just dominate in the bedroom. It's dominating every sector, every arena. Let the world know what we ain't gonna stand for. Don't be afraid to speak truth in love. Be reasonable, willing to listen, hear, and understand. But we ain't gotta fold up what we know to be the truth, especially when it comes to my babies. That's just point blank, period. That's all there is to say on that matter. Until next time, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't yet to do so. spread the word about what we're doing out here. We got some projects coming up where we're going to help more families feel more secure with this homeschool thing and how to break away from all of these agendas together. There's a lot more to take from this. And we're going to use this opportunity to be a blessing to the community. Round 2, be on the lookout. Hit that bell for notifications. Smash that like button. And you keep up the fight. Don't leave me in this alone. Everything we bring to you is to equip you to go out here and be the voice of reason in your area of responsibility. Rather that be the workplace, rather that be your college campus, rather it be your circle of friends. Teach and educate. Have the conversations. Ain't nothing special about me. I'm just a flawed man, moving by God's grace, trusted in what He's placed in me. But without Him, I'm just another heathen. And amongst the collective on this panel, I'm the chief of all heathens. It's by the grace of God. Grace to y'all. Enjoy the rest of your week. You're going to be at CPAC next week. Your boy will be in the building. So hit me up. Let's connect. Let's keep building. Let the dead bury the dead. Peace.
If you can only look beyond the surface and see the purpose. Look beyond the surface. I never told the world that I was perfect, but God is working. Come on. They don't understand the life I live. They don't understand the life I live. I said I'm not perfect. They don't understand the life I live. They don't understand the life I live. Understand that God's working. They don't understand the life I live. They don't understand the life I live. Still working. They don't understand the life I live. They don't understand the life I live. They say old habits die hard, mind looking immortal. This Mortal Kombat, Reaper standing center the portal. As I'm fighting for my life, demons ain't being cordial. Every leap of faith I make, it's like I trip on a hurdle. I feel the devil so close that he inhaling my air, and the essence of his presence is oppression and fear. Once you push that fear aside, it should make you aware. The distraction is to stop you, cause your miracle's near. No need to push my life back if my doom doesn't reach. The blood of Jesus, what He chooses to feast. I feed some truth to that leech. Taste this victory and fill up your cup. Watch the inheritance just fill me back up. I'm never quitting my assignment. Nah, blood sucker, ain't quitting my assignment. No, no. Come on.
Bobby Bradley, I think you are a lame coward for waiting till the end of the show to bring this goofy comment as we are closing. I've dropped the link. You had the opportunity to come on, and you saved this weak comment for when we on our way out. Grow a pair.
Peace.